What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 172 of Value Town. I'm ChanManV, and we've got a special episode for you guys today. Another arena episode. This is like twice in maybe like 5-6 weeks that we're actually doing an arena episode. It's pretty amazing. But I want to welcome to the show ADWCTA and Dreads. What's up, guys?
Hey,
It's
doing
going
well.
well.
Yeah, you
No,
can.
no.
Yeah, so Gar didn't join us today, guys, because Gar didn't have time to play any arena this week. So, didn't make sense to have him come on and just basically sit here the whole time and not say too much.
And listen.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's no craziness with Gar. Gar will be back, obviously, our next episode that we do. But these two guys obviously are arena experts. If you guys don't know them for whatever reason, ADWCTA has his own podcast, The Lightforge, as well as he's the one part of the Grinning Goat. If you don't catch him and immerse playing arena, and they have their site too. And then Dreads, of course, is one of our best arena players, as we can see on the leaderboard, finishing number 6 this last leaderboard. Congrats on that, dude.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad.
Not quite Cripps level last month, but that's okay.
He's number 2, right? So
Yeah, he did really well last month.
yeah. Have you been 1 before?
I have. Yeah.
Nice.
I was
nice.
number 1.
Yeah.
It's been a while now. September, I think, of last year, and I was
Okay.
number 2 2 months ago.
Okay. All right.
So yeah.
If we could
got
only
the
have
most
achievements, like actually in the game that you
I
could
actually got something
slap
for
that
it,
medal
that would
on,
be cool,
yeah.
but it's all right.
I can't pull up something in game to even see that what you did.
It's something to kind of shoot for, and it keeps it interesting. So to a certain level, so it's good. I
Yeah.
can't complain.
No, man, that's amazing. I mean, it's not easy to do, and I feel like the top of the average wins that you have to get to be like top 10 just keeps going up and up every time I see the leaderboard.
Yeah, certain months. Last month it was a bit lower, and then or 2
Mhm.
months ago was a bit lower, and then the
Mhm.
last one was pretty high again.
Yeah.
Like, Tachi, who's a regular in my channel, he got over 9.7,
Oh my
I think, or
gosh,
something.
it's just so
Yep.
insane.
Pretty high.
Yeah. Well, we've got a ton of things to talk about because there's been a lot of changes, in terms of arena. We alluded to some of them, or even just took a quick look at some of the cards last week, but really wanted to save all that for this week so we could talk with these guys about it. But to start off, I want to remind everybody that Value Town is an hsreplay.net show now. So if you want to see the latest stats or latest meta, if you're climbing the ladder and all that good stuff, go to hsreplay.net and check out the latest stats there. I started off just talking about our week, just what we've been up to. I've been personally just trying to catch up on some arena because I haven't played it quite as much as you guys, just in prep for this show. So
Have you been enjoying it overall?
Yeah, man, it's been
Yeah,
great.
good.
I mean, it's obviously with the new cards too. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool to see. But just having not played in a while. It's always great. It's always refreshing and great to get back to it and just even try to knock off some rust, because it's like when I play arena, I realize just how many bad habits I've developed like playing standard. So I got to
you
get
just don't
back
play
to
with
my
some of the cards a lot, right? Like
Yeah.
constructed is just set certain cards at that level, but in arena you just have to pick from some of the crap
Yeah,
cards.
right,
So
exactly.
it's a different experience.
Those are the
Mhm.
tough ones where it's just like staring at the 3. I'm like, man, I know there's a right answer, but I don't want to cheat. So I'm just like trying to figure out what, like,
On your
just
own,
my
yeah.
own. Yeah, and it's usually probably not right. So, it's been a blast. And again, like I even just being able to mess around. Like I was telling ADWCTA that I was trying to build a deck with as many of the new cards as possible, and it's
Just take every one.
yeah, and it's like amazing how much you can how many of those cards you can actually choose with the whole new bucket system.
Yeah, it's an offering rate bonus happening right now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but ADWCTA, what have you been up to, man, this week?
I've been finishing up our tier list so that we had it released with the new time cards, and that's the Lightforge Arena tier list. So that took some going. But I think the interesting part that I noticed doing that is that the cards aren't like, they look really powerful, but they're more random than they are powerful. Like nothing was actually busting over what we normally see as like the most powerful arena cards. So things are getting a little crazy in the arena, but it's not like actually a power, or not much of a power creep, so much as just the majority of these new cards, especially the good ones, have unfortunate RNG effects that have a very big impact on the game.
You just have to accept that, right? Like
Yeah.
going in.
Oh,
RNG,
There's going to be
really?
a lot of RNG, and if it doesn't go my way, it's probably not going to end well. But it's okay for an event, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay for an event, and it's not as the RNG is not even as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was like very scared going into this event, and then after being in it for a couple days, I'm like, all right, you know what? This is it increases the RNG. It doesn't like blow the game apart.
This is coming off after talking to ADWCTA about this. He's like, I think I can only stand it for a week. I'm not going to be able to play anymore after that. This is how
I think his original
bad I
tweet
think
was
it's going to be.
might need to take a break from Arena for a
Yeah.
little while.
Yeah.
I was asking.
Right.
People were suggesting like Slay the Spire. I was trying to figure out what game we can stream for 2 weeks instead of like playing this brawl for longer.
Oh, man.
But that has to do. Did you guys know? And this is something that we missed until actually the day of the release, which is that Chromie and that dragon. I keep forgetting the dragon. Morozond. I did not realize that those were legendaries.
I didn't either.
In the reveal.
Oh yeah.
I
didn't
feel
either.
like 90% of the arena community did not like figure this out. And because normally when we look at rarities, when they release cards, you look at the little rarity crystal,
Right, exactly.
And when they don't have one, we assume, oh, it's a basic card, like it's going to be just common. It's an arena event anyway, right? They want to offer it as much as possible. But these two cards being legendary, and Chromie and Morozond are like the two most ridiculous cards in the entire like set that was released. Like I thought they were going to be commons and just like offered to everybody, and I was like, this is not going to work out for the arena. I don't want to like get unhealthy and have high blood pressure and just way too much salt on stream. So I'm just going to sit it out after the first week of having fun with it.
Have you seen how Chromie is bucketed, by the way? Like I drafted it, and it was up against the 4-drop Prince card and another really.
Wait, Chromie's not in the number one.
No,
bucket?
it's not.
No, it was like an auto pick. I like looked at the other cards. It's like there's no way I'd take anything else.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I noticed that too.
Faldori,
Strider?
Faldori Strider is in the top bucket.
Right. Yep. I don't know. This one was up against. It was the easiest. I mean, I would take it anyways just to try it out. It's fun, but
it's better than Faldori, or like at least about the same as Faldori Strider.
You got it. You see it, you take it, basically. Right now.
Right.
See, that's one thing I don't understand about Blizzard and the bucketing system, right? Where they put the cards initially. I think they did a better job this time than they did with Witchwood initially. Like Witchwood initially, if you guys remember, was a complete mess of just like I think over half the cards were misbucketed.
I just wasn't drafting Witchwood cards. The expansion launched, and it was like, yeah, let's play with some new cards, and then wait, if I want to take these cards, I have to have a bad deck. I don't know if I want a bad deck.
It was all maybe like 8 out of 9 cards were over bucketed, and they didn't make the same mistake here, and they bucketed everything high, and they were good, and it was fine. But you wonder like how they actually come up with these initial bucketings. Right, you don't look at a card like Faldori Strider. You know that's a top bucket card, and then you get this legendary, card that is functionally very similar to Faldori Strider, and then look at it and say, "Oh, this is not a top bucket card."
Yeah, I mean they're obviously going to make a quick assessment or just their own assessment, and I would assume that they would be adjusting probably daily after that. And
No, they don't adjust. This is not what happens in the arena.
I know. I was expecting that reaction when I said
they've been adjusting a little more, but it's not. Normally, it's not that fast. It takes a little while.
Once every 3 weeks. I would say maybe.
I feel like that's too long for at least the very first iteration. It's like you could do it a bit more. I think in the first couple weeks, and then just kind of let it settle some, but. Like waiting on the first 3 when you could have made a huge mistake based on very little data. That's kind of crazy.
The first adjustment was a week and a half for.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad.
But I'm not sure they're going to do the same thing with the event. But obviously they can't wait 3 weeks for the event because the event's over in 3 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But they got a little bit of pushback because they made the changes pretty quickly, and then there were a lot of people that didn't really get to play, I guess, with the previous system that much, and then they were a little upset. So it's tough. It's kind of like in some ways it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, especially when they're not going to retire decks, right? If you don't retire decks when you make a change, and the change is very significant, it may cause a power level differential between the older decks and the newer decks. That's one of the
sniped.
Yeah.
That's actually that's something I've never really thought about that much. Is just people that just have decks that they just haven't played much, right? And the fact that they don't retire. Okay, you're saying they don't give credit back for retire, basically
They don't retire
allowing
the decks at all. You know that they retire all the decks before the event, and you have to draft a new deck, and they give you a free arena run. They don't do any of that. You just keep your deck. And so this was especially a problem in the very first time they did it, right? They made a bucket system. Everything was super overpowered. It was clearly it was very brawl-like for a week, and then after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they changed it back.
Yeah.
And they lowered the power levels dramatically to a power level that's lower than even before the time cards came out. The arena power level in the bucket system was at its lowest point after they did that change. And I think most people liked this. I don't know why they kept changing it. But anyway, so the difference in power level was so big that you can just consistently snipe, especially with a Paladin deck, anybody. And if you had enough decks queued up for it, they have no chance. It's not just that their cards or their decks or you have a very good deck for the meta. You have a deck that will probably get you a 95% win rate against anything that can be drafted at the current time.
Okay. And Lich Kings were everywhere. It was
okay. That's an exploit for sure. Yeah, crazy.
I still remember during that 3 weeks, I lost to more Lich Kings or Lich Kings off of Stonehill Defenders than I lost to non-Lich Kings.
That was ridiculous. I mean,
it wasn't even surprising anymore. It was like, Lich King on 8 again. Okay, that's what I expected.
It's like the one card that was just insane, right? Like it just zoomed to the top of all the stats.
And Tarum was everywhere too.
Yeah,
that's actually my biggest complaint about a card. I hate that card in Arena. Tarum's it's way too strong for Arena.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's way too strong.
We digress.
For standard too, but but whatever. But we're talking a lot about all these buckets and stuff, and a lot of folks that watch or listen to Value Town, they may not be regular Arena folks just because we cover so much standard. So why don't we talk a little bit about just that change that happened a few weeks ago now, or actually how many weeks ago is it now? Like
it's been
the original
3 months.
Is it 3 months? God, has it really been that long?
I think about 3 months.
3 months with the buckets, right? Like with the 7 non-legend buckets and the 3 legend buckets.
Because it was right before the expansion.
Yeah, it came out a little over a month before the expansion.
Gosh, it's been that long even since the expansion. Man, time just flies, man. It's been a little crazy. But yeah, so obviously Chris had a blog post about just the changes, and it was this blog post is so refreshing because this is like the first time we actually get some transparency from the team, explaining like what they've been doing and maybe what they're going to do in the future. And they explained that they've kind of gone into this bucketing system where they kind of had these kind of buckets, but they were very clear that they had 7 non-legend buckets and 3 legend buckets, and how just the pick offerings were happening, where the buckets were kind of chosen randomly. And they even went to the extent where they talked about just like how things were weighted and how they micro adjust. And then in 11.2, patch 11.2, which just came out not too long ago, they added even more buckets that would overlap in between those existing buckets that were there before, just so they would add even more, just add different cards, right? Just more different combinations of cards, right? If you just have more buckets. So yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on that. ADWCTA, of course, you're always very, very vocal about the changes and things. So wanted to just get your thoughts just on the original change, and then obviously the 11.2 one.
Yeah, I think both me and Merce have been very supportive of the general theory behind changing the arena from drafting random cards to drafting these like bucketed cards that are based on this Blizzard tier list that Blizzard makes based on some combination of data they have, right? Yeah. It's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect just because you don't know who's drafting, right? Like there's going to be systemic issues with creating buckets no matter how well you do it, because RNG is going to favor bad players, not good players. I don't mean like bad players are going to roll high and good players are going to roll low. I just mean you want to rely less on RNG as a good player because your win rate without RNG would be much higher than a bad player. And so the Blizzard tier list isn't going to be able to capture that. And the tier list also would never be able to capture like human error. The example I love to bring up is that for the longest time we had data on this, and it's no longer the case, thankfully. I just checked on HS Replay just to see if this is the case now that we got all the new players back into the arena. But Ascetic Swamp Ooze is now not a worse card than Bloodfen Raptor in non-B synergy classes. It used to be for like the entire first year and a half, 2 years that Hearthstone existed.
Because people would hold it, I guess.
Because people would hold it rather than play it. They would play nothing on turn 2 to hold the Ascetic Swamp Ooze to try to kill a weapon. And there wasn't even like totally ridiculous weapons back then, right? You're just trying to like, I don't know, kill an Arcanine Reaper at best. There wasn't like vine cleavers and like silver swords that you
Right.
could really hold to get value for. It was rarely the right choice to hold a ooze on turn 2 over playing nothing, but people did it. I would say like more than half the people did it, and it really sunk their win rates. Anyway, these things are not going to be captured by Blizzard tier list, but overall, their goal, which is to get more interesting picks at every single pick, so you don't have these like throwaway picks where it's like, oh, well, one card's clearly just better than the other 2 cards in every instance in every deck. That goal, I think, has really made drafting in the arena much better and much more dynamic. Like I know I spend, and we used to spend a lot of time on drafts, and now we spend 3 times as much on drafts as we used to. And that's
great.
part of what the arena is. That's part of what's unique about the arena compared to Constructed, right? Like that there is a draft, that you do have to put your deck together like from scratch every time. So I really like the direction that was going in. And I think they've had enough time now to work out a lot of the kinks that existed in the beginning.
Yeah. Dreads, what's your take?
Yeah, I'm overall kind of in agreement on this one. I think it's like I used to just blitz through drafts because fireball against like ice barrier and things like that would happen. You're like, well, click, 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 click. So there's a lot less of that, which is a good thing. What I will say about it is once this doesn't really apply for the average person that maybe plays an arena here and there, but if you play, I don't know, four runs a day or something like that, then what you do see is a lot of the same picks over and over and over again, which gets a bit repetitive. And it's part of the reason I'm glad that recently we haven't really gotten to that yet, but they added these overlapping buckets, so you get a little bit more variety, which makes it a little fresher if you're doing a lot of drafts. But yeah, I would say overall drafting is a little bit more difficult nowadays, and you do have to take more time, and that's good. I mean that's all positive. So yeah, I've kind of gone back and forth on the bucket system. I think overall it's a good thing. And assuming they keep making little tweaks and do a decent job with the buckets, but I think it's been a good change for Arena.
So what's y'all's take on just generally, because there's buckets, right? And they're trying to match the cards. And for those of you still that might be wondering what buckets mean, they're just taking very similar, I guess, power level cards. They use win rates, they use kind of pick rates, and they kind of determine, which cards are very similar in that regard. And they kind of put them together, and that's kind of where they choose these cards to show you at a time, because they choose from the same bucket. When that happens, right? Like there's, like I think for the most part, people weren't making huge mistakes in drafting whenever there were like very, quote unquote obvious choices or there huge differences. But now, I feel like everybody gets a pretty decent deck now, baseline, and so the power level there. What you guys being obviously higher level players, do you think that even matters in terms of the I guess the skill ceiling in terms of? I mean, is the skill ceiling higher now, or do you think it hasn't changed, or has there been any kind of difference?
So yeah, go ahead. All right, I'll start.
Yeah,
so I think the skill ceiling, I think the skill ceiling has definitely gotten lower, and it was a comment that we made from the very beginning of the bucketing system. If you put so much focus on the drafts, you're going to take focus off of gameplay, and because of what Dreads was talking about too, where the gameplay gets a little repetitive as people know how to synergize decks well, right? Like, and when you have a floor on your draft, essentially. So 2 things. One is you have a floor on your draft always. If you ever like go out of your way to make a pick or like to do something, you know that you're not going to sacrifice a lot of value later on to fill out the rest of your deck, for example, or to go for a synergy and to fill in the gaps. So that creates more like siloed decks where you see like, oh, here's a dude paladin that has all these dude synergies, and they're going to play the Lightfuse Stegadon, and it's going to buff everything. And that does create for more repetitive gameplay, and repetitive gameplay is less like it. You think about it less, right? It's not the same as a totally random format. The other thing that lowers the skill ceiling is, and I think this is not really exactly the bucket system's fault. It's just we don't have enough of a pool of cards. And as part of the system with the bucketing changes, they made the rate in which bad cards, not even bad cards, like literally every card from average to below. So you take a median card, like one that we would rank like 100 on the Lightforge tier list, and all the cards below it are offered less than all the cards above it. the last time we looked into this was right before Witchwood, and that was the second to last bucket is the cards immediately below 100 or like around 100, and that was offered at 75% the normal rate. And the cards below that, it's the huge bucket of all the remainder cards, is offered at 50% the normal rates. So Blizzard's taking care to purposefully make the decks better. Like they have a thumb on the scale on the good cards, or like on the above average cards.
Right.
Everything above average is offered at about the same rates. Like I know people think, oh, I see so many Steeds or whatever. Actually, Steed is a bug that they admitted to. But normally speaking, all the cards are seen at the rate that they're supposed to be seen, as long as it's above average.
Yeah.
But because they put the thumb on the scale on the average cards, on the average and below cards, your decks are overall better, and your diversity is overall less. Like just by them doing that. Now, whether that's a good thing because these kinds of bad cards may be ruining decks. People sometimes, especially if you're offered 3 choices and they're all crap, right? That was really like pissing a lot of people off, I think, especially the more casual players who are like, oh, I'm going to get stuck with this. But like, as you said, right? Like arena players, sometimes it's nice to play with cards that you don't see in Constructed. But that's purposefully gone now. And that was always an element of arena skill, and a pretty large element. And, and that kind
I mean, there was always going to be that randomness of whether you run hot, just with what you're offered, or you don't, But it made those times when you did run hot just really stand out, and it was definitely highlightable, and you'd obviously tweet it and all that good stuff. So it's always been a big part of arena for me. So I get why they would do that, just to try to make the average game more fun for most players. But Dreads, like we see people getting like 9 wins on the leaderboard averages, right? So, I mean, is that affecting that number, making it higher, or I mean, because clearly it's not the decks, it's just the play, right?
Yeah, I mean, last month I think people did kind of have a good idea of what the meta was like, because the first month it can be a little bit crazy with the expansion, and people also probably are just trying things out. So after having a month or so to kind of get a feel for things, I think the averages are naturally going to go up a little bit. Also, like the really good classes last month, like Rogue and Paladin, were pretty consistent. So if you picked those every single time and knew what you were doing, you probably have a pretty high average. So I think those are a couple of factors that contribute to that. It's still, I mean, the month that I was number 1, my average was 9.4. So it's not that everything is up right now. There have still been like dips, and like I think that the month before that the highest average is just a little bit over 8, for example.
It's definitely gone down. I don't think you can make it's not even a thing that the leaderboard win rates may be going up or recovering to where they were before. Since the bucket system's been introduced, it's gone down a bit, and it's gone down a bit like because Blizzard literally has a 100% hand now in the end tier list value of your deck. Right? Blizzard tells you what your tier list value of the deck is going to be. You get to tweak around with it and you make some marginal differences, but in the end, you're drafting for coherence. You're no longer drafting on value. And value has always been responsible for something like 33 to 50% of a deck's like run potential for any player. We've had those stats for years, and that hasn't changed.
Yeah, as far as the bucket system goes, just 2 things that I kind of remembered. I'd want to talk about it a little bit, but the fact that once you get to a certain number of wins and you see a class, you kind of have a decent idea of what their deck's going to be like, which makes it, I would say, a little less exciting to play the games, because it's just like, oh yeah, you can play around things maybe a little bit better, but it's just a little bit repetitive. It's like, oh yeah, here comes this on this turn. Oh, here's this. Oh, I don't have an answer for that. I've lost. So I think the combination of losing a lot of cards with this expansion and then how the bucket system works makes for some of the runs to feel a little bit repetitive. And then one other thing that I would say is a slight downside to the bucket system is, like for me, for example, I like the card Faldora Strider. I have fun with that card, but it's up against like SAP. And so if you're going to decide, hey, I want to have fun, I'm going to take the Faldora Strider, you're probably making your deck significantly worse. And, you can choose to not do it and just take the best card every time. But that means you don't really get to play with certain cards because you don't want to have to take that risk. So that's something that I personally kind of miss a little bit. I remember with the Undercity Huckster before the expansion hit, I could basically never take that card. And it was one of my favorite cards in the game. But if I wanted to take it, I was passing a better card. And so it's obviously no system's going to be perfect. And these are kind of some of my issues with the bucket system. But overall, I think it's been a good change.
And Blizzard can't fix that because it's not a fixable problem.
Right.
Faldori
Right.
Strider is in the top bucket because for a player that goes 3-3, which is their average player, Faldori Strider is going to be a lot better than for Dreads, number 6 player in A, because it has such a huge RNG element.
Because randomly you'll just win.
Yeah, you'll randomly win when you draw like 2 of them in the next 3 turns, and then you have an extra 8/8 on the board.
Yeah.
That's and that competes against your win rate, right? If your win rate's normally 50%, this card's worth this value. If your win rate's normally 30%, the card goes even higher in value. Whereas if your win rate is, I think usually people on leaderboards are around 75%. That makes such a big difference in how much you care about the randomness.
Yeah, right, because no matter how much better you are than your opponent, if they pull 2 4/4s on turn 5, it's pretty much over, right? I mean, it's how it is. So.
Right.
So the bucket system will just inherently always make it so that good players, if you're playing seriously, will not pick RNG cards, and will even more not pick RNG cards. So for what Dreads would say, if you really like a card that has a little RNG to it, you're never going to get a chance to play it. It's kind of the opposite for me. I never have to play it. I don't want to play these cards. I used to have to, because even like, how much can you penalize RNG, right? That's a question that we keep like asking ourselves, especially when making the tier list. No matter how much you penalize it, if it's a good card with RNG, it's still a good card. It's just a little less good. And now I can never pick Faldori Strider and never have to deal with it.
So in terms of, some, you guys are kind of like saying that you like, one of you guys like the, just one aspect of it, and the other person saying the opposite. But one thing I am hearing here is just that the predictability standpoint from like what Arena's turning into is the part that you guys just generally don't like, which is like a part of that's a very big part of Standard, right? It's just like knowing that the meta is this way, and me being I play a lot of Standard. I do like the fact that I know what the player, what kind of deck he's generally playing and how to play around it, right? Like that's actually part of, I think, playing on the Standard ladder, is just understanding those type of things. Where, with Arena, obviously we used to have the element of just like not knowing at all. And to be honest, that frustrated a lot of people. That's maybe one of the reasons why Standard players didn't play Arena is because of that reason. So, Blizzard in recent times have tried to do things that I think make it more predictable, make it, Standard-like in a way, with the synergies and all the things that they tried. What are your thoughts on just that general notion and trying to make Arena, a little bit more accessible, I guess, to the bigger demographic, which is the Standard demographic and Wild demographic, right? So, thoughts on that,
I guess
Dreads?
for me, for my those selfish reasons, I don't really want Arena to be too similar to Constructed.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean it shouldn't be a little bit more similar, because in an ideal world, especially as a streamer, if more people are playing Arena, more people are going to watch Arena. It's better for me.
Right.
So I'm okay with them doing these things, and I was actually one of the few people who didn't hate the synergy meta, if you remember that way back when.
Oh boy,
pick meta?
Here we go.
I was one of the
wow.
like I'm glad they didn't.
I remember this.
But
I remember this, Dreads.
I didn't.
I still remember this from the stream, watching you comment and being like, "Oh my god, really? There's one good player out there who does not mind."
So it was, I've always been kind of a, sometimes I'd have a little bit different opinion about some of these things, but I'm okay with the direction they're taking it, to try to bring in more people, if that's what they're trying to do. That's good. I want more people to play Arena. That's good for the community. But I don't want it, like when they pumped up the power level really high, and it's like that's too much, because I don't want to, because I don't enjoy the here comes Lich King on 8, here comes Tarum, I don't have a way to play around it and I just lose. I don't like those feelings. So I think it's a balance, and luckily they have to figure it out, not me. But what I will say is I'm really glad they are doing stuff about to Arena. Like they are paying more attention to it lately. It seems like they have events coming out. So for the Arena community, I'm really happy that we get to feel like they're paying more attention.
Yeah, clearly they have. I mean, I think in the last year, I feel like they've made a lot of strides. Across the board, but particularly in Arena, it just feels like there are actually people dedicated to Arena now, when before I wasn't 100% sure how many people were dedicated to Arena, at least one person, but I wasn't completely sure there was more than that. But now
they released I think someone at Blizzard commented on some Reddit post and was like, "Oh yeah, there's like a person whose part-time job it is to balance the arena, and that's
It's like
it."
one guy, yeah.
There's like a guy where it's like not his full-time job either.
That poor guy. I mean, it's not easy, and he's
It's not an easy job. But I think what they meant is that that's the person responsible for the bucketing and to make sure things are in the right buckets. And obviously, a lot of the balance team is also like at least looking over the arena stuff when they do something that's an arena-specific change. It is like it's kind of crazy if you think back a year and a half ago, and they have literally done nothing in arena except ban a couple cards. And if you go back 2 years ago, they had literally done nothing about arena, nor talked about arena like at all. It was like literally a forgotten game mode 2.5 years ago, and 1.5 years ago there was no actual differentiate. They didn't put any effort into arena really, and now there's so much, right? Like we've already had 2 events in which they added entirely new arena cards with like sounds and artwork and all this stuff. They've tried things like the synergy pick things that they took back. They've tried other things like the class adjust. So right now there's this 0 point that they released the numbers in that blog post you talked about by Chris. It was 0.7 to 1.3 is a modifier that gets put on the best cards from particular classes based on how good the class is doing. So if a class normally does very well, let's say Rogue always does really well. It's the arena. The dagger is crazy. You will see less eviscerates. You will see less backstabs, all just fewer of all those cards. On the other hand, if you're taking a bad class, like say Warrior, that's their hero card does nothing and their win rates are low, you will get a lot more of their top cards. They first introduced that as a less than 5% adjustment in June, and they were very clear about it, and they were very much like last June. And that has developed now into a 30% adjustment. And these are all things that Blizzard's tweaking. Like they're not just sitting there doing nothing. They're not just trying something and then like forgetting about it. They're definitely actively reviewing all aspects of the arena, and they make missteps, right? But they're touching it, and it means for something like the bucket system. I remember when me and Mercer were talking about it, we were like, oh, it's going to be so good. But at first it's going to be really bad. Just so everybody knows. Like, don't come to us when you're like, oh, arena sucks now. Yeah, it will suck for like the first month at least. But then it'll be okay and playable, which is, I think, where we're kind of at right now. And in like 3 months, maybe 6 months at most, I think the bucketing part, people won't have a huge disagreement on anymore. I think everybody at that point would have come around to the bucketing system because Blizzard would have done something to make it function in a more ideal way than it's currently functioning.
So do you see them adding more buckets even after 11.2? Because if you keep adding buckets, then it will get to the point where it starts to get closer to like, way back when, and we're even talking about even just bad cards, right? And just more bad card buckets, and things like that, right? Or more chances to get bad card buckets. Do you see them adding a bunch more, or this might be just, enough, even just this last iteration of buckets?
I think the last iteration of buckets is fine. I don't think it would add. One of the things, once they announced that they were releasing these in-between buckets, everyone was like, oh, that's so great. And then everyone thought it would make a major impact in the arena. And in that, like, 1 week between when they released it and when the event happened, we got to see what the new bucketing system was like without all the time cards messing things up. And it kind of looked like the old arena. Like the meta changed a little, but the drafting wasn't like terribly noticeable. It was a little bit better.
Paladin dropped a little bit, I think, and Rogue went up a little bit. But it wasn't like a huge flip. Yeah,
and if you're drafting Dreads, like you barely notice it. And we know the buckets pretty well. So if anyone were to notice it, we'd be the people that are like, oh my god, that's bucketed.
Like when I do see a new set of 3 cards, because you just notice it, you're like, wait, that third card is different from what it normally is. I do enjoy that. It's like, oh, it's a fresh set of options, but there still are a lot of the same 3 picks where you're I'm okay with it. I mean, at least they're trying to make it a little bit better.
Yeah, so if Blizzard makes it one more step, right? The final thing to this is not to have a million different buckets. It's rather to have just a tier list of like exact numbers that Blizzard maintains, and then they pick a card to start you off, and then they have X% chance of putting the next 2 cards there, and the chances go down the farther away it is from the score of your primary card. Right. The first one, the pick setter, I'll call it. And that's fine, but it seems like a lot of work, and I don't think people will notice it too much. And if anything, people will notice it for the bad stuff, right? For the stuff that they explicitly try to get rid of, which is like, oh, I have a fireball against, two, average cards. Why are you doing this to me again? So it's this balance. I think that's where they're headed with this increasing buckets thing. I think it'll eventually be that tier list, just because why not, right? They have the technology. The hard part is figuring out this tier list thing, which they've apparently done. And if they're happy with how their tier list is doing things, then making it more dynamic will create more diversity, and Dreads won't have to pick the same 3 cards all the time, or in this case, the same 5 cards within a bucket, right? They've extended a little, but still not the same. Now you'll get a random pick in there now and then, and now you'll get Faldori Strider sometimes in a mid bucket, now and then, and you'll be like, oh, I got to pick that card, and that can only be an improvement, but I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's very marginally good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, definitely, again, these changes are headed in the right direction. But the biggest thing is just keep with this, transparency as to when changes are being made, because that I think we've learned across the board, or you guys should have learned, at least Blizzard should have learned across the board, that when you hide stuff from us, you always get burned, because somebody is always
People
looking.
find it.
Yeah, they're
Someone
out of all the millions of
digs.
people playing Hearthstone, they always find it. So, just I think keep up the good work there. Why don't we take a look at some of the cards that came out in this event? We can do a little mini review here, which we don't get to, we don't get a chance too often to do the arena only card reviews, given that it's only happened twice, right? So I kind of brought up the kind of class cards 8 at a time, obviously 2 from each class. And for those of you that haven't gotten a chance to experience the Taverns of Time event, there have been, I think, is it 28 cards? Is it?
Yes.
28 cards, 14, right? Yeah, 28 cards have been added to the arena, 2 per class, and then we have 10 neutral cards that were added.
2 of them are legendary, though.
Yeah, 2 of them are legendary, but
you'll see all the time.
I'm not sure if they're represented in these images here, but we'll have to see.
Why did they tell us that, by the way? Why did they
I know.
symbol?
They did. This is what I noticed.
They did? I
had this big discussion with Taro. So they didn't tell us, by the way. They did not use their words. What they did is, in those images, those 2 images that they released, right, that had all the cards, you can tell which ones are legendary, because all legendary cards have that dragon border on the very top.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas normal cards don't. And those 2 cards had a dragon border.
Let me find this. Hold on.
I didn't notice it either. That's why all the arena players walked around and were like, oh, these are going to be regular cards. Yeah. And Taro, when he pointed it out on Arena HS, he was very clear and very intense about it, as he is. And he's like, oh, I'm sure Chromie and keep forgetting this dragon's name, because now I'm not a WoW player.
Morozon, yeah.
Morozon and Chromie, they're going to be legendaries. I promise you, because of the border, because they're named characters from WoW. And I'm just like, okay, this is Taro's weird conspiracy theory. Let's not worry about it. And then when it came out, he was right. He was they were legendaries. And thank God for that.
Yeah, exactly. Thank goodness for that, right? But all right, why don't we kick it off with the mage cards here? So we've got Cavern Dreamer, which is a 1/3. At the end of your turn, add a random spell that costs 2 or less to your hand. And then we've got Consider the Past, which is a 4 mana spell. Add 3 random spells from the past to your hand. So Cavern Dreamers, man. So I played Mage 3. I did 3 runs with Mage, and 2 of them I didn't even get offered to Cavern Dreamer, which is crazy to me, given that all my other runs I got offered both class cards a ton. And this card feels pretty sick. So
I haven't played with it yet, but it was one of the cards that everyone in chat was going, yeah, that card is pretty insane. So yeah, I think when I did my initial review, I did rate it highly, but I think it's even better than that. So
yeah, so one thing to realize when it comes to offering rates is it's doubled for these cards. For all the cards that you see in the Taverns of Time, it has 2x offering rate. We've been looking over some stats. That seems to be the offering bonus that these cards get. And so for a class minion, that means you'll see on average 2 of these per your draft. You'll be offered 2 of these. You may not take them, but you probably should take this guy. So to Blizzard's credit, Cavern Dreamer is actually bucketed really high. So it's correctly bucketed. but it is an insane card. We started it out at a 154 on the tier list, which is above Fire. Oh no, it's the exact same score as a Fireball. And that's with us penalizing RNG quite significantly, because the Lightforge tier list is done from the perspective of a top player, so like 75% win rate.
Yeah.
And it's still that high. So for like a player who's not at the top of the leaderboards, it would be even higher than that. And I think that's what people are seeing. They're just seeing the ridiculous effect that this can snowball into, because this may, like, you're only getting a card that's 2 or less in your hand, so a 1 or 2 mana card, and it seems like it's not that much card advantage, but the tempo it generates is insanely crazy, because every time you play a card, you get a little extra tempo than the mana cost it's worth, because you're using up a card. So Cavern Dreamer allows you to put all the tempo out, assuming you don't get like horrible rolls. And when you put out all the tempo, you can protect this card very well. So you can like remove all your opponent's minions, and they have to actually use a removal on this. If you get a taunt, they can't even get through unless they have direct damage. Like, it can snowball really, really fast out of control.
Not to mention the spells you can get, which are, I mean, Primordial Glyph is amazing. Frostbolt can be amazing. I mean, there's a lot of good spells that too, for Mage. So definitely a solid card. I mean, I don't think I've heard anybody complain about this card at all. Consider the past. So what do you think of this one? This one I've definitely had a different, or had different opinions on, thinking it's just like kind of so-so.
It's good, right? I haven't played with it again, but a 4-mana Cabalist Tome, if you guys remember.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's a 4-mana Cabalist Tome. So.
And that card was slow, but still powerful. So it's better than that. So yeah, it should be a good card, but I haven't had a chance. I don't think anyone's played it against me either. So
yeah, I don't think so. Just before we continue on, I don't think it's a matter of whether these cards are just good against regular cards, because they're all good against regular cards. All right, so it's more about like the relativity of how good these cards are versus the others. So this card's better than Cabalist Tome. It's 1 less mana. It's pretty much, it's very, very similar to it. But in terms of how does it compare to Cavern Dreamer?
Yeah, it's not on the level of the card in the bottom right, the Master Realities, or the card in the top left. That much we know, right?
Yeah.
So it's somewhere, it's lower than that, but still.
It's a good card, right? It's not a super premium card. We have it at a 128, which is like a little above a Keening Banshee. Like, it'll beat your normal like curve cards, right? It's better than a Yeti. It's better than like a Fire Plume Phoenix, but it's not going to like win you the game consistently.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about the Mage set though is that it's all card draw, right? Like, Cavern Dreamer draws you a ton of cards potentially. Consider the Past draws you 3 cards. That's a lot of cards. And so they get offered to you a lot. Consider the Past actually gets offered to you more than 3 times per run, because it's a spell, and there's a bonus to offering for spells and weapons. So with all of these cards that are heavy on card draw being offered to you, you're like heavily incentivized as Mage to go for curve, because you will not need card advantage. You will just keep getting these good cards offered to you. And when you have curve, you have even more tempo, which helps you protect Cavern Dreamer even more. Like, it all builds into one archetype for the Mage. And because this is now in the bucket system, you will never lose value for going for a particular archetype or synergy, at least not much.
Yeah.
You now can very consistently always draft the type of Mage that never runs out of cards, has a curve, and will like win the game eventually. So the entire Mage arc, and Mage is number 1 on HS Replay stats right now in the arena, and that's one of the reasons for it, where if you just go around drafting for Mage, you kind of have it all.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
Mage at the top? What?
Yeah, I know. Will Mage ever be in the bottom tier? I don't think that will happen. Maybe one day. Who knows? But okay, so we're going to move on to Rogue now. So we've got Deja Vu, 1 mana spell. That's discover a copy of a spell you played this game. So it definitely has that. I think if you play Deja Vu, you at least get to choose Deja Vu, right? Or
Yep.
Yeah, so you're never going to not discover anything. It counts as...
The guy did that to me on turn 1.
Yeah.
He played Deja Vu, was offered Deja Vu, and he took Deja Vu.
Right, might as well, right, if you don't have a 1-drop. And then we've got a 4-mana minion that's a 4/3 Thief of Futures. Battlecry, add a copy of the top card of your opponent's deck to your hand. Which I've definitely gotten my share of this card. I think I get offered this card a ton when I'm playing Rogue. All right, so let's start with Deja Vu. So this is like basically you get another copy of a spell that you drafted.
I'll compare it to Hallucination.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll compare it to Hallucination. It's not as good as Hallucination because you need to have played it before, and so you'll never get any of the game winners, because if you've already played a game winner, you've already won the game. So by that logic, this is going to be worse. On the bright side, it's controllable, but you have to cast it really late to get some of the big spells. Like, you can't pick it in anticipation of playing a big spell later, or at least it's like just because you won't get it because you haven't played the big spells. And a lot of times, like some of the more powerful spells, you don't necessarily want to use the effect twice. Like maybe a sprint is really good for your deck. You'll never want to sprint twice. So I would prefer a Hallucination to a Deja Vu. I think pretty significantly. Yeah.
Kind of depends on your deck, though, right?
Yeah.
If you get offered a lot of saps,
I was gonna say sap too.
things like that, then the card could be great. But as a first pick card, where you don't know how many, let's say in your draft, it's the first card offered, you don't know how many spells of that type you're going to get, and you also have to draw them before you can play this. Or ideally, that's how you want to use the card. So yeah, I would say it's a similar power level to Hallucinate for me, but it doesn't have that high roll where you can just get a DK and win the game, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Thief of Futures. How about this one? Adding a copy of a top card from your opponent's deck to your hand. Dreads, take on this.
I mean, it's a good card because you're not paying that much for card draw. You know, if you think of Gnomish and Vinter, and obviously we want to compare them to these cards, but that's a 2/4 and you get a card. But this also gives you information about what your opponent's going to draw.
Yeah.
And it's just 4 attack is much more relevant on turn 4 than 2. So I think it's one of the better cards from the set, but not the top level, not the top left and top right card here. But it's quite good. Yeah.
I could actually see this card being a real card in a future expansion.
I like the mechanic. I think it's I don't know why it's not a real card.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the few cards where you're like, oh, this could be a real card and wouldn't disrupt anything and it would add flavor to the game.
Yeah. And it feels like a rogue card too. They've definitely.
I don't think it would be that strong, because if you think about it, most of the time the card you get, you're not going to really be able to play around it. Like, oftentimes in Arena it will just be a 5-drop or something, right? So it's not like, oh, he has that 5-mana 5/5. This is game breaking. Now I know what I'm going to do. So yeah, I think it's a fairly it's a fair card, and maybe in the future they'll add something.
All right, Paladins next here. We got a 1-mana blessing of, what is that? Acons, I think is what Acons. I'm not sure what Acons or Aeons. Yeah, sorry, it's kind of small on my screen. Aeons. So give a minion at the end of your turn. Give a minion at the end of your turn, gain +1/+1. Okay, so it's a buff obviously for a minion, and then the next one is a 5-mana 5/5 dragon, Bronze Broodmother. When you draw this, summon a 1/1 wee whelp. Definitely had a lot of whelps I was fighting against for sure. So this card and there's another card in the future, right? That just draws a card whenever, or does something whenever you draw it. But the Blessing of Aeons, I haven't actually gotten a chance to use this one. Any of you guys played this one? Edwakta, have you gotten a chance to play Paladin at all? No?
I haven't played Paladin. Oh, yeah. How has it been? I've never had it played against me even.
I think it's better than I thought, because if when I was first evaluating it, it was like, okay, you can't use that +1/1 on the turn to take a value trade, right? So I thought that would make it significantly worse. But if you drop it on, I don't know, 2/5, let's say you drop a 2/5 on turn 3, and then your next turn is a 3-drop and buff. And if you're a little bit ahead on the board and your opponent can't kill it, it's pretty annoying to deal with. So I think I did lose a game that my opponent played it, and it did feel pretty annoying, because it's similar to the priest card, right? The 2/2 that buffs +1/+1. That card's stronger because it's on a stick. But yeah, I think this card's pretty good.
Yeah, and this card is also harder to kill than that 2/2, because the 2/2 will always be a 2/2 unless you buff it again. Whereas this, you're presumably putting it on, like you said, a high health, low attack minion to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
You do combine 2 cards into one body, but there's really not that many removals in the game right now. And as far as the time cards, it didn't really add any removals. It actually diluted removals out of the game. So this is actually a meta right now where, and if you're listening to this or watching this and you want to know how to do good in the arena, arena is much more aggressive now in terms of good win strategies because the taunts and the removals have been diluted out. The only class that got more taunts or removals is Hunter, who got like the 2 great removals. I'm sure we'll get to, but everyone else, it's much slower and much less able to like stop your aggression.
Okay.
And Blessing of Aeons can like one, it's part of the problem, but 2, it can also take advantage of it, right? Because if you don't have the removals, and like Dread says, you put it on a 2/5, it's a 3/6 coming back. You need to deal 6 damage on turn 4 to kill it. Otherwise, you get more and more and more value, and then it can get some serious value. I still, I don't know. We rated it pretty low, and it's also misbucketed from looking at a Paladin draft. I think it's bucketed a little high to where like let's say Blessing of Might and stuff would be. I think this is in a higher bucket than that, which is problematic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a spectacular card.
Yeah.
What I do want to talk about is the Bronze Broodmother.
Okay. Yeah.
Which it seems like a pretty normal card, and I didn't really think too much about it when we were like rating cards or like doing stuff. And it's not rated terribly high. It's a little better than significantly better than a Silverhand Recruit, but not like a premium card. And it's also like not heavily misbucketed or anything like that. But the win rates on HS Replay, oh my god,
are they super high? I didn't even notice that.
The win rates on HS Replay for this, go to Paladin and then just look through the deck win rates for cards.
Oh wow. Okay.
This card,
well, it's in like 36.4% of decks today, or at least the last 24 hours. So that's a lot. Oh, wow.
And it's a 57.2% win rate. Steed is 58.9, 57.3%.
Why is that?
Yeah, it's like a nesting row, like a Stranglethorn Tiger, like a Ooze. Like
it does do well with the Possibility Seeker, I guess. Right? Like, and that's a card that's pretty common right now.
This one right here, yeah, shuffle.
The one where you shuffle your hand into your deck.
Yeah, but still, it's still. I mean, requires.
It's hard to think that accounts for all of it.
Right.
There's something I think we're not picking up because it's not like obviously this is not a card that is the most highly skilled card to use, and it's not the highest synergy card. There's just nothing that I'm seeing in this card that will make it, the most amazing, like one of the great, like the best Paladin card added in this expansion, but also just generally a good card.
I mean, let's talk about the fact that it adds a 1/1. So let's just say turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you just got a random 1/1 at any point, that's a nice advantage, right? Just generally, like in
the odds are so low, it happens in the first 3 turns, though. It's literally a 10% chance.
I don't see how this win rate is so good then outside of that, because that's like the only thing it gives you. The total value from this card is average, in my opinion. That's, compared below average compared to the other cards, in my opinion. So, is there Dragon Synergy that's really good right now? That's in.
I would say having the Dragon tag is probably a bad thing right now because everyone picks every Dragon Slayer offered. So
that's kind of interesting.
That card just
too many dragons in the arena. Dragon Slayer value.
Well, I mean, so Paladin's doing really well right now, right? So it could be just the fact that Paladins are doing really well, and obviously this card's being picked a lot. But some of these other cards, they're just neutral cards, right? Or common. So
it's doing better than a Consecration.
Okay, yeah.
Oh no. Okay, it's doing 0.2% worse. Sorry, it's almost doing better than a Consecration. Just to give you an idea of the win rates on this, and I look at win rates to try to see if like either I'm missing something or like try to understand the game better. And this is one of those things that it's normally like the win rates are normally they're explainable, right? Even if they're not tracking exactly how good cards are, you can be like, oh, This is because, an average player will play the card this way, whereas I would get more or less value out of a card. But this, it's not, everybody will play this card the same.
Yeah. Definitely pretty interesting. All right, so moving on to Shaman. So the two Shaman cards were definitely the two cards when I first looked at the list of cards that they announced. I was super excited about because I think that the Stasis Elemental, which is a 4-mana 3/5 battlecry, freeze a minion until this leaves the battlefield. I just felt like that text was just very interesting. It sounded amazingly powerful, and I just kind of wanted to see it in action. And then we had the 6-mana 5/7 Master of Realities, which is after you summon a minion, transform it into a random minion that costs 2 more. So it's like a evolve Hagatha kind of thing going on here. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but you basically get to evolve whatever you play, like behind this card. So yeah, both of these cards I thought were amazing. Stasis Elemental, has it turned out to be crazy good, Dreads?
So I think this card's a little bit worse than I thought it was at first.
Okay.
How good did you think it was?
I can't remember what my initial rating of it was, but I thought it would be much easier to protect it so that they can't kill it and then use the minion to attack. Or maybe I wasn't thinking about the fact that it can attack as soon as the minion dies. So if you kill him on that turn, it can attack. But it's a good card. But like oftentimes, at least in the way my games played out, it wasn't really much more powerful than just like an ice to meet you freeze effect for 1 turn. But it might have been because when I played it, I was generally behind because that's otherwise you'll just randomly freeze face unless you have no other plays, right? For turn 4 things.
Was your deck more of a control deck?
Man, I can't remember exactly what kind of a deck I had. I just remember I had the Master of Realities, and that thing just went crazy. I think I had like 2 hexes, a lightning storm, 1 volcano. So I think it was a bit more control oriented.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's still a good card, and the elemental tag is pretty good right now too because you have the +2/2 get a random elemental, so it has some additional value for that. And Shaman's one of the classes where elemental synergy is a little bit more of a thing. But yeah, I again I haven't played that much, but I think I had 2 of them in my draft, and it didn't blow me away.
Yeah.
Have you played with it, Mokta?
I had one in my deck. It was okay. It did its job. I would call it like a barely premium card. Like it's premium, but I'm not going crazy. Like this is not Cavern Dreamer or Master of Realities by a long shot. But it's definitely also like significantly better than any normal neutral card you're going to be able to get. But one thing that I did notice is that people will misplay against this card all the time. And by people, I mean me. Even as Chad is yelling at me.
I think we've all misplayed against this card.
Don't do it, Mokta.
A couple times. Yeah.
Because like Dredd said, it unfreezes the instant this card is off the board. So if you can remove it on the same turn, you want to. But then when you can't remove it, I just like forget that that's the case. I just see my board and I see a frozen minion. I'm like, oh, I don't get to use that minion this turn. I don't think, no, I do get to use that minion if I change my priority of attacks and kill the Stasis Elemental, even if it's like inefficiently. It means I effectively get like a charge minion like this turn, right? I get an extra attack this turn with the largest minion that has been frozen on my board and not doing anything for a couple turns. So I think it snowballs more than it should if people have like a month to like learn how the card works. But right now, almost everyone's seeing and playing against this card for like the first couple times. So I think it's going to get more value than maybe it like should.
Yeah, it's a fascinating card. I'm actually glad it's not as powerful as originally thought because I could maybe see this being added to the game too. You know, if it's not too strong, it'd be dangerous, but I think it would play very, very interestingly in terms of like, you know, tempo plays and board plays and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a game breaking card.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like they put it in, you're going, what the heck? No, not anymore than like
well, there's a decision, right? Like it's always great to have a decision. Unlike say Taunt, right? Taunt a lot of times is just straight up. You just, you know, it's not really blocking too much or protecting it half the time, right? With this, you kind of have the same type of interaction, but you have other alternatives to actually get out of it, right? Or just to play around it.
There's so much counterplay to this card.
Yeah.
And so the ability does snowball, I guess. He keeps someone frozen, but it's a lot of counterplay.
That's right. Yeah. Masters of Reality. I mean, this speaks for itself. I mean, it's a 7 health minion, and it's got the ability to instantly make whatever minions you play behind it probably worth a mana or two more. So, yeah, I mean, is this one of the best cards in this release, or is this the best card in this release? I mean, just ask that question. What do you guys think?
Probably.
It's an
Yes.
I mean, Shaman jumped to the top class or second,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
From it wasn't. I don't think it was last, but it wasn't doing that well.
Yeah,
and
it was pretty down there.
I don't think the stasis elemental would be enough to make that much of a jump. But yeah, I remember I played this. I had one of these in my draft that went 12, and I had a Violet Worm, and I had a turn where it stuck around for, I don't know, 1 or 2 turns. And I was still not in a dominating position, but I had a turn where I Sun Fury protected my Violet Worm and another minion. So, my 2/3 turned into a Yeti or something. And then they had to kill the Violet Worm, and it was just like, the 1/1s evolving each time. And so I have this insane board after they have to make trades because they didn't have removal. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much game over. So you can do crazy stuff with it for sure. And just the ability to have your totems become significantly more powerful is it's pretty nuts. Yeah.
I didn't get a lot of value out of the one that I drafted. Like, I mean, I got plenty of value. It was totally fine. It was better than Boulderfist Ogre card every day, of course. But I didn't get like the game-winning value out of it. But I have been the victim of it a couple times, so I know what it can do. We started out at a 163, which is the highest rated Shaman card besides Unstable Evolution. So it is the best card being offered in this set. We actually, like, outside of the legendaries, like, I think Chromie and Morozon are both better.
Yeah, I think
even for like good players. And for an average player, Chromie's probably like the best by a decent margin.
You have to be careful not to be too greedy with this card, because you can just see all the lines coming together. Like, I had I forget the name of the card, but the 2/2 Murloc Echo card. And so when I had those 2 in my hand, I was like, can I just wait until a point where I'm sure it will live, and then the next turn I can go off? So, but oftentimes it was best to not do it that way. Like, just take it for when it was a decent turn and then hope that it sticks.
Yeah, like, one of the best cards of Masters of Realities is it's a 5/7 that's literally 1 stat off of a normally statted Arena 6-drop, and 6-drops are rare to begin with. So
80% index right now. I can basically have 59% win rate. Pretty solid. And Chromie, and like you guys said, Chromie and Murzon are better, so it's insane. Definitely crazy. All right, see some more classes we got here. We got Hunter next. Oh yeah, Chrono Shot. 3 mana. Return an enemy minion to your opponent's hand. It costs 2 more, so kind of this freezing trap-ish effect.
We rated Chrono Shot 5 points higher than the Master of Realities.
Really? Oh my gosh! Yeah. Wow. Okay. I mean, it's super powerful too.
Yeah.
Then we've got
Sap is even higher. So
yeah, the Infinite Wolf here, 4 mana rush. So it's a 5/5 beast rush. After this attacks, shuffle it into your deck and give your future Infinite Wolves +2/+2. God, I'm just like dreaming of this card actually being constructed with like just like the Grizzly card, and not the Grizzly, the dire Frenzy card. Oh my god, that'd just be amazing. But pretty different cards. First off, the Chrono Shot, the spell that's kind of like a freezing trap, but you can choose the target, and it's just 1 mana more. You rated this 5 points higher than Master Realities. Let's talk about it.
It's a sap. It's a sap for 1 more mana, but it makes sure your opponent can't play that card as efficiently the next time. Because that's the worst part about sap, right? You sap a Sunwalker, the Sunwalker comes back the next turn. You better have some other way to deal with it, or else you get to put a little more tempo on the board, but you still have to deal with a Sunwalker. With Chrono Shot, if you're sapping essentially anything 9 mana or above, it never comes back. It becomes an unplayable card. You just killed it for 3 mana. But even if you are sapping something like the Sunwalker, it can't come back the very next turn if it's an on-curve play. And even if it's played off-curve, it will still gain you 1 extra mana compared to sap over the course of this exchange, which if you're pushing, which is generally what you do as Hunter period, and definitely what you do to use Chrono Shot well, then you push harder. Like, everything's working the right way for this card. And I never see that 2 mana, like from the sap thing, mattering too much. Like, yeah, fine, it's plus 50% mana, but it's just 1 more mana.
Yeah. I chose 4 of these. My last.
Get off first board.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. What do you think, Dreads?
Yeah, it's great. I haven't drafted it, but you can just tell, like what Marta said, the fact that you can delete, a Sleepy Dragon from the game is pretty nuts.
Yeah.
So I think that upside does, that does make it like I don't think this card would be really okay to add to the game permanently, but I mean, who knows?
Oh my God, Hunter would be crazy good with this card, like ridiculously good. Yeah.
And then the Infinite Wolf, it's kind of an interesting card because, again, I haven't played with this one, but based on the wording, I believe even if it lives, it still goes into your deck. So unlike I think
if it dies, it doesn't go into your deck. It has to live.
Oh,
yeah.
So
if it dies, it's just a 4-mana 5.
But it never. What I mean is, it never stays on an extra turn, right? It's
Yes.
always like
it always
out,
gets
right?
shuffled back in your deck, which you have to draw it again. So it's basically
it's
a
not like
removal
Militia
spell.
Commander where it stays around if it gets an advantageous trade.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what to think about this card. I don't know what the win rates are like or anything, but it still seems good, but not on the level obviously of Chrono Shot.
Yeah.
So this card is bucketed super highly. I was very very sad about that because a lot of people thought it was one of the most insane cards ever. We didn't rate it as such, and we overestimated the offering bonus or rather, we forgot to take into account the dilution effect for the offering bonus. Anyway, so we dropped Infinite Wolf actually 10 points in today's update. It was a 144 when we first released it a couple days ago. Now it's a 134, which is not terribly great. And Infinite Wolves really get better when you have more of them in your deck, right? Especially when you have multiple ones in your hand. Because you play an Infinite Wolf, that gets shuffled back, but now you don't have to draw it again in order to get the extra value. It's already in your hand. Because all the wolves get buffed every time one of these gets shuffled.
All of them do. I didn't realize all of them
get
do.
buffed. So it's a giant network synergy.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's where the real power comes from.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, right, like at its worst, it's a 4-mana hard removal, right? Once this wolf is buffed to 15/15, if you're using it on the board, it's still just a 4-mana hard removal. And 5 mana is an actual hard removal. So you're never really getting that much value out of it when you use it as removals, as most people do, even if you get it a couple times.
It's a cool card. Yeah.
It's a very cool design.
Yeah.
And there are weird things you can do with it, but I think it's a lot more. I mean, that's why it's not in constructed, but it's definitely one of those things you can ruin a whole entire constructed set, right? I don't know what. I'm not a constructed player, but I'm sure there's something you can do with this card.
If it was +1, not +2, I mean +2, it just gets out of crazy. But if it was +1, and maybe starts at 4/4 or something like that, I mean, I don't think it would be too crazy because it's rush, and it doesn't matter. Once it attacks, it gets shuffled. So it's really a spell that has in the form of a body, right? It's almost like a damage spell with a body. It's weird.
But I think that's how people misplay it. Because I had only one Infinite Wolf in the one Hunter run that I did, but more than half the time that I played Infinite Wolf, it was just as a body, and I did not rush. I played it as a body because I'm a hunter, and if I have a 5/5 body on the board, that can go face the next turn. A 4-mana 5/5 is a great card, right? A 4-mana 5/5 beast.
Yeah,
it doesn't disappear unless you attack. And I can't attack face the first.
Having it chill for a turn. I see.
Yeah, and trying to make sure you get full trade on it, right?
Exactly, especially after it became a 7/7.
Right.
After it became a 7/7, I don't think I ever used it as removal. I think I always used it as I have the board. I'm going to drop it so you can't board clear me, and this is going to go face the next turn, so you're going to die. And I don't think people do that a lot because I rarely see it done that way against me. And having played with this card, I've realized that the scenarios in which that is the correct play is actually quite significant. I don't think it's most of the time, but I think it's a good at a minimum 25% of the time, if not 33% of the time. I think if you look at HS replay, one, this card is bucketed very highly, so you're passing up other good cards to take it. But also too, I think a lot of people are not playing it to its full potential because they're focusing in on the fact that it has rush and they think they have to attack on that turn to use it. Whereas just playing it as an oversized minion is right a lot of the times. It's like that that Ascetic Swamp Boost thing we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you get the most value if you hold it for a weapon, but sometimes what you need is that 3/2 on the board. Like sometimes we just need is a 4 mana 5/5 that goes face.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but you know, if you played the first one, I think would you play it the same way on the very first one? Like, let's say it's on curve, you can just leave it on there. It's going to most likely just be a 5/5. Like you don't don't have the other one, right?
Yep.
And you just kind of chill for it because you could probably trade, with a 5-drop or whatever they come out with later, or they have the 2-for-1 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So
or they have to spend resources removing it.
Yeah. That's cool. Definitely a very interesting play. Okay, next up we got Warrior here. So we got Fate Cleaver. So the first weapon we're talking about, 4 mana 4/2. After this kills a minion, destroy all copies of it, wherever they are. Okay, and then 6 mana 5/6 dragon, Draconic Herald. Battlecry, discover a minion, give it +3/+3, then put it on top of your deck. So guaranteed to draw it next turn. All right, so let's talk about this Fate Cleaver. So after you kill a minion with it, you destroy any copy of it. So I guess you don't want
your deck or your opponent's deck, on your board or your opponent's board.
Right.
In your hand or your opponent's hand. I've had trouble with this card when I was playing it because I had a green jelly in my hand and I needed to use it to remove my opponent's green jelly. And I was like, well, I just lost a card, but I'm not going to let that green jelly sit on the board when I have a very good removal.
Oh, I see.
Things happen. It's hard to tell. A lot of it's very random. The optimal use case scenarios are Saturday Night Chain Gangs or web weaves or things like that, right? Where one medium-sized weapon is normally not the best to take care of it, and now this gets the job done. But the secondary effect where it's taking stuff out of hands and decks, it's weird. I don't know if it's a positive or a negative thing.
It's pretty awesome because everybody, a lot of people are going to be drafting multiples, especially of high valued minions, right? So,
but oftentimes you will too, right?
Yeah.
So that's the
as long as you're
everyone's drafting Saturday Night Chain Gang, right?
Okay.
So it's weird.
It's pretty awesome though. I love the design of it. It's so cool.
The text is probably often. In most times you play it, it's probably irrelevant, but you have to play with a lot to know. And a 4 attack or 4 damage, 2 durability weapon on 4 is great. If you just look at True Silver, the healing of True Silver is obviously is good, but it's oftentimes not the most important thing. So it's a very good card, and I think it's something where probably everyone has to play with it a bit just to get a feel for how often you do have that awkward situation that ADWCTA talked about, where it's I don't want to kill my card, but I have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting card. I don't know if I'd want this one to be around all the time, just because it could make for
it counters
situations in Arena.
It counters Infinite Wolf, right?
It does.
Just kills the pack right there.
But you have
Kill
to
the
actually
alpha.
get an Infinite Wolf on the board to use this on.
If
someone keeps charging with the Infinite Wolf, it'll never stay on the board.
That's
and
true.
you have to have it. If it's a 5/5, you have to have somebody to go into it for kill it, because if you just hit it, it doesn't count. You have to make sure it does a killing blow, right?
It's that stealth wolf, man. It's hard to actually actually swing at it. Definitely a very, very interesting card there with the Fate Cleaver. All right, Draconic Herald. Basically, you get a +3/+3 buff on your very next card. Probably paying a mana for that. So, sounds pretty good to me.
I rated this card really highly. I don't know if it's as good as I thought it was, but being able to discover effects tend to be very powerful.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And dropping a 6 mana Pit Fighter is what I always think of as a 5/6. Isn't the end of the world. So this card should be really good, but I got to play with it more too. What did you guys rate it, ADWCTA?
122, which puts it above all 4-drops, and in Warrior, it's around the top of the 3-drop range. So it's around Dragon Slayer, Eggnap, or Wasp. It's a little below that. So we rated it pretty high as well.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not at the level of Fate Cleaver or Chrono Shot. Fate Cleaver is 160. Just for being a weapon, not really for the ability. That got very little value.
Well, there aren't that many Warrior weapons on 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Bloodraiser and then and Fate Cleaver, and we put Fate Cleaver above Bloodraiser actually. But the Draconic Herald, I played with it and I thought it was fine. It was just kind of like, that's kind of where it is, like around like the 120s, because it's nice to get to pick your next minion, right? Because it's the one that you draw next. And especially when you need something like a taunt or something, like you know how your game is going, you know what mana card you want, like you can really set it up pretty well. And the +3/+3 makes some previously not as good cards like more viable, like low attack, high health cards. But at the same time, a lot of times I didn't want to play it, even though I needed to, because what I really wanted to draw was not a minion, but one of my spells or weapons.
Right.
And it was a low chance that I could draw, like actually get like a charge or rush minion out of it. It's definitely a very interesting card. I think the Draconic Herald is probably, if not the most interesting, at least top 3 of the interesting cards in this entire set.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. All right, so we'll move on to Druid here. Before we do, I just want to give a shout out to just the folks that support Value Town. That's of course our patrons who've been, obviously the foundation of our support for a long time now. So we always like to take a few minutes to give a shout out to some of the folks that do so. And if you are interested in supporting, go to patreon.com/ValueTown and make a pledge today. But I want to give a shout out to our producer, our legendary producer, Mike T. As well as Dave C, Devin Y, Engine S, Paul H, Vincent G, Dan S, Lee D, Nick P, Gotrix 2, Jacob P, Risa, Michael S, Dale R. Thanks so much for helping us out, guys. And you guys are one of the main reasons we were able to do the show each and every week. And without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do it all this time. And we're on episode 172, getting close to 200, and that's kind of amazing. So just again, if you want to support, go there, and any little bit counts. Like even some people think that, oh well, I'm not going to bother if it's just going to be pledging $1 or something, but $1 goes a long ways, you believe it or not. If everybody that loved the show pledged $1, we'd be in great shape right now. So just take a look at that whenever you guys get a chance. But continuing on with our card review here, we've got the Druid, which has a spell called Flash Forward, 3 mana. Each player gains 2 mana crystals and draws 2 cards. And then we've got a dragon that's a 6 mana, 6/7 Harbinger of Catastrophe. At the start of your turn, summon the highest cost minion from each player's deck. Which is like, okay, that's generally never a good thing when I'm giving my opponent something good too. But there's
Druid got screwed is basically
yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't even know if we need to talk about these cards that much.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about too much, but I would say
play Druid, guys.
I would say the Harbinger is kind of interesting, just because if you do get to pick it kind of early, then you can just draft just really big stuff, right? Hopefully. I guess you only get one shot. You only get one shot. I guess you already do that anyway.
How well that actually works.
Yeah. Like that's not, as Druid, you don't want to like draft big stuff usually, because what you want is Ultimate Infestation. So
okay, yeah.
It's still kind of a curve, so it's weird. It's bad.
Yeah. Anytime it says each player on any card, nah. That's generally not a good card for me, or at least the card that I want to play in Hearthstone. And both of these cards basically have that.
You can see what they're trying to do with it, right? The cards are supposed to work well together, and you get to that turn 6, and then you're pulling a bunch of big stuff. But it's got good stats, a 6 mana, 6/7. But yeah, it's no thanks. I'll pass on Druid for now.
I feel like the development for these cards were like failed constructed cards rather than actual arena cards. Because I don't know who would look at this and think this is very interesting for the arena. Like, you gotta make these.
So what you're saying?
Either undercosted or like do something else or delay your opponent. You gotta add something to it, especially when it's coming out with this set. Right? This is like the set of all definitely above average cards, and then you have like an unplayable card in Flash Forward, like completely unplayable, one of the worst cards in the entire game. And then another one that's you're almost never going to see
what the stats are on this card. I actually really want to see what the stats are on these two cards.
Oh, it's a 6/7, 6 mana, 6/7.
Yeah. Well, both. Let's see. Guess on Flash Forward. Last day, HS.
You're talking about the win rates.
Yeah. What's the win? What's the win rate in?
Well, you have to be. I think you will not be trying very hard if you pick this card. So I think it's even lower than the card justifies.
Okay.
I don't know, 40%. Because HS replay players are above average players generally.
What's your guess?
Oh, my guess.
Yeah.
35.
Okay, how about
Oh.
how about a number of decks too? Percentage of decks too. All right, you got your win rates, but how about percentage of decks it's played in?
2%.
2%. Come on, dude, it's a
I'll
new
go with
card.
10%.
People are gonna play
10%.
for that. All right. 10%, ding ding. But y'all a little bit off on the win rates though. It's actually
Oh, hey,
47.
that's not that bad.
Yeah, Druid's actually not terrible, right? So I mean, even if you added this card,
It's
in
the
as
worst.
well. Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah, it's
never
a
mind.
46.6.
I was totally wrong with that. Yeah.
But it's close to Priest and Warrior, which are like the three kind of, I would say, dumpster tier classes right now.
Like,
but yeah, it's not a good
Going
spot.
into the event, right? Yeah. Okay.
No,
Currently.
right now.
Currently.
Oh, okay.
Before Druid was fine. Druid was like, if anything,
Yeah.
one of the top classes. Even if not statistically, like Druid's always been one of those classes where good players get more stuff out of than average players because it's so like fundamentals based and flexible with a lot of choose ones. But yeah, it's at the bottom of the list right now for the event. But I don't think it's actually that bad even in this event. I think it's that 10% of people pick Flash Forward that's making Druid.
Yeah. I could
Because
see
if I
that.
picked Druid, I'd
look
probably
at-
Let me see
try,
what
just for
catastrophe
fun.
is. All right, here's catastrophe.
Yeah.
Catastrophe is not that
Catastrophe.
bad. Look at this. 50.
33% of decks have this card. Okay, so
It's
Druid
50
may actually be
it's
one
like
of the best
52%.
classes in the arena, is what I'm getting out of this, because they're surviving even though these cards are being selected.
Oh man. I don't know. Maybe nobody's drafting big cards, so when they play catastrophe, it's like amazing. Or Harbinger, it's amazing. You know, it's
You never know.
they're getting giant 8/8s, and everybody else is getting 6 drops of that draw cards for them if they with Battlecry, but they're not getting anything from it. All right. Well, anyways, let's move on.
The worst part of the I just want to like crap on this card even more on this catastrophes card, because the worst thing also when you're a Druid player, if you play Arena Druid a lot, like you don't want your opponents to have giant minions on the board. You have no hard removals in your entire class outside of Naturalize. It's it's such a non-functional like card that I think it has to be a failed constructed card that they like stuck in.
So what you're saying is, on the day of, like, all right, guys, we're shipping these 28 cards. Everybody, bring your cards to the table. Like, let's take a final look. The person that did the Druid kind of overslept, and they were just like run into the. Just give me 2 cards, guys. Just hand me 2 cards. Just throw it out there. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I feel like because it's so different than the other classes. Like even when you have not a spectacular card like that Paladin buff or whatever, you can see what they were trying to go for, and like it's a definitely playable card.
Yeah.
These two are, I don't know what they're going for, and they're bad.
Yeah. They definitely do stand out in terms of how much worse they are compared to the other cards. Okay, so we got Warlock next. Grasp the Future. It's a 4 mana, draw 2 cards. They cost 2 less. So you get definitely a nice discount on those. And then a 7 mana 5/5 dragon. That's Rift Warden. Battlecry, discard a random minion, a Death Rattle, summon it. Okay. All right. So, this is the type of text I've always kind of wanted, in term for a discard. Anything that had a discard effect. So it's kind of cool that they're trying it out here in this arena. But thoughts on both? Any?
I haven't seen Rift Warden played. I think it's one of the. I think it's one of the weaker of the new cards, but it's not terrible. Like you could make it work, but it's not that good. Grasp of the Future is a card I think that might be really good if it was for a different class. But with Warlock, you don't really want to spend 4 mana to draw 2 cards. I mean, granted, you get the discount, so it's better than that. But that takes a good portion of your turn. So I haven't seen these cards played yet, but I can't imagine they're all that strong.
So I mean, Grasp of the Future should remind you a little bit of like Primordial Glyph, right? But obviously not as powerful because it's not in Mage. Cards are just worth less in Warlock because you have that hero power, and it's 4 mana, so that makes it much more clunky.
Kind of like Farsight too, right? Similar.
Yeah, like Farsight, you get 2 cards, but similar idea and less chance of hitting the smaller cards. And the fact that you get 2 cards, I think, is important because it means you're going to get a lot of card advantage out of this card without taking face damage. And even more important, this is something that mages do very well, but warlocks do even better, which is you sometimes want to spend your mana but not do anything. Like, especially for Warlocks with the double-sided board clears, like you want to be able to bank some mana. Or for Warlocks, let's say in Zoo, when you're up ahead really hard, you don't want to spread even more because all the cards in your deck are these like small minions of 4 health at low.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And so you can spend your mana like this and literally just bank your mana so that once you get cleared, or once you clear them, you are fully out on the board and you really take control of things. So I like this card the more I think about it. I started off like kind of where Dreads is, like a little error on the card. But the more I see it, I don't know if people are doing this intentionally or not, but these scenarios just kind of come to you as you're playing the game with this card. When you see it, I think it's more useful than it may initially look. And I agree on Rift Warden.
Feels like another card you have to play with a bit, or at least see playing against you more often to know how to evaluate it correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
Depends on the meta, how often can you afford to take that, pay 4 mana to get 2 cards, and then so yeah, it's an interesting card. I do like the design.
All right, how about this Rift Warden? Where you
I'm with Dreads. It's there. It exists.
There.
The mechanic is interesting. I agree with you, but they bucket this one pretty high as well for what it is, and I don't know. I don't know if I would ever recommend someone take it. You can't set up your turns as well in Arena as in Constructed. And it's 5 health, which means in Arena, if your opponent doesn't want that thing to die, and they won't, it's just not going to die for a while.
Yeah.
So
the good thing about it is, if you think of that, was it the Cruel Dynamancer, the 5/5 where you? Oh,
if you throw a card away, you get it back.
Yeah, but it was only so if you threw away a spell, then it didn't really do anything. At least with this one,
you
it discards a minion.
Yeah,
and so you definitely will get something, right? Assuming you.
Well, unless you don't have a minion, right? If you don't have a minion in your hand, that's gonna suck.
But it's more likely to be useful, I guess. But yeah, it's an okay card.
Yeah, we have it rated right below Threshodon. We had it rated above Threshodon. We just dropped it today.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the Threshodon's a 7 mana 5/7.
That's not terrible. Right, yeah. It's pretty good.
It's a fine card.
Yeah. All right, Priest. Let's move a little bit quicker here. Where I think we've been taking our time, but the
cards take a long time to get through. Actually.
Yeah, they do.
Talk about each one. So.
Yeah. So, all right, Priest. All right, we got 2 spells. One's 1 mana Ripple in Time. Discover a minion. If you play it this turn, it has Echo. And then the next one is 2 mana spell Reminisce. Add 2 random cards your opponent played this game into your hand. So, nothing too crazy here. I mean, the Echo one, I guess, could be interesting. I guess if you pick a semi-cheap one, maybe like a 3 mana minion, you can play 3 times.
Ripple in Time has some crazy upside if you are able to play it late in the game. But they're both okay cards. I would say Reminisce is a good card. But if you look at some of the other cards, the Shaman cards, and you're like, these aren't quite on that.
Well, these are very similar to card. I mean, kind of. Well, maybe not so much Ripple in Time. Ripple in Time's kind of, I guess, Glinda-like, but Reminisce definitely feels like some card they've designed, or some combination of a few things they've already designed. Yeah.
I actually have we have Ripple in Time rated much higher than Reminisce. Like, I really like Ripple in Time as a card. Like, the problem with Reminisce, it's worse. Like, it's you draw 2 cards. It's kind of like a Thought Steal. But you kind of know what's going on.
Right?
So it's going to be bad cards. Your opponent's going to play a coin like half the time at some point. Sure. Like, also, if your opponent played any cards you actually wanted, which are usually game winners, they would have already won the game, and this is probably not going to get you back. It has that same issue that rogue card has, I think, where the rogue card is the one you play. This is the one your opponents play.
Yeah, Deja Vu.
Deja Vu. So it's similar, and I'm just not as high on these as just regular card draw cards. So this one's discounted, which is nice, but still, I don't think the quality of the cards you're going to get is going to be on average anywhere near like getting a card from your opponent's deck or from your deck.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Ripple in Time, it makes all 3 choices legitimate, because normally if you discover a minion, you don't really have that much of a choice. There's going to be like terrible minions. There's going to be minions that are just too small, especially when you're trying to discover it and play it on the same turn or whatever. But this makes everything like
what 3 drop do we want from Priest?
What Echo card?
Yeah.
There's so many things go crazy when you Echo. Like the Murloc that buffs itself. Oh, I'm sure Twitch chat can find much better things than I can. But just some cards are just not meant to be echoed. And
Oh
once
man,
you
the
get
2-drop, just the Shadow Ascendant would be pretty.
Shadow Ascendant, oh my
that
god.
would be disgusting.
4 of those.
Oh my, 4 of them or
Yeah.
something like that. Oof.
Someone on Reddit was saying how they
Crazy.
lost because someone rippled in time a Goldshire Footman. Like, yeah, you know, if you
Okay,
needed
yeah,
to get
sure.
through and you have
Lot of
7
ones,
taunts
yeah.
now to get through, you're screwed. Like,
Not bad, man. Not bad.
yeah.
It's like 14 amounts of stats you get from that bad boy. That's pretty good. All right.
And you still have 2 more mana.
Yeah, that's true. You can heal yourself too. Pretty nice. Okay, let's go through some of the neutral ones. Here they are. Okay, so we've got 10 neutrals. Kind of showing them all at once. Maybe just the top row here. We've got Infinite Murloc, which is Battlecry shuffle an Infinite Murloc into your deck. Your future Infinite Murlocs get +1/+1. So kind of like the Wolf, just a much smaller version of it. It doesn't have Rush.
Very bad.
Yeah, it's a very bad
Not a
version.
class
of
card, so
Yeah.
you don't get as many of them offered to you.
Yeah,
Just not.
I've
It's just a
still
card you
haven't
probably
seen
shouldn't draft.
Never dropped it.
Actually,
Oh,
maybe
it's not even in the lowest bucket.
All right, let's
Oh,
see.
really?
Let's see
Oh,
what this
yeah.
one is.
Did never draft it.
Okay, let's see what this one is. Infinite Murloc. I'm curious, actually.
It should be very low because it's not even in the last bucket. So people had to have passed
Oh my
up decent
God.
cards
I
to
don't think
take
we
this.
do we even have enough data for this? Let me see.
I'm sure we do. People will take it.
I've
It's such a
seen it
meme
played
card.
against me a couple
Yeah.
times,
Okay.
and I haven't played that much, so.
It's not coming up. Jeez, let me see.
It's such a meme card. There's people posting about facing an opponent with like 6 of these in their deck. Like,
Yeah, I must be doing something. But anyways, let's keep going. So Temporal Anomaly, it's a 2-mana 2/2 elemental. This is the one I was referring to when we were talking about the dragon for Paladin. When you draw this, add a random spell to your hand from your
Yeah.
class. So nice free mana there. And then Timeline Witness, 3-mana 2/4 minion. Instead of drawing your normal card each turn, discover a card from your deck. Yeah, man, I've been burned by this card a couple times. And then Chromie, 4-mana, 4/4, Battlecry, shuffle 4 historical epochs into your deck. And the historical epochs, I forget what's the text is on those.
Give your minions +2/+2, deal 2 to your opponent's board, draw 2 legendaries.
mm-hmm.
Man, that's
what's the last
crazy.
one?
Like draw 2 cards from like a different time or something like that.
Oh,
like
okay.
some other draw 2 event.
Yeah.
They're all
so-
pretty good.
Yeah, they're all pretty good. They're not as good as a 4/4 on the board, the way Faldor already does, but you get 4 of them, so it kind of evens up.
Yeah, so amazing card. I mean, pretty awesome card. At least a really fun card. And this is the card, ADWCTA was saying that is legend because of this
Yeah,
dragon
you see
stuff.
it?
Yeah, this
The
dragon
little
stuff
dragon thing on the
there.
top,
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
can tell. Of course, it was right there in front of us the whole time, and like pretty much nobody noticed. So
Right. Okay, so let's talk about these 4. Which ones stand out to you the most? Like, any comments? Just jump in with any of them at this point.
Yes, so quickly, I mean, Temporal Anomaly, I think this is a card where it depends on the class a little bit. Like in Mage, it should be pretty good. Some classes maybe not as good, but I'd say that's a pretty good but not game-breaking card. This, the Timeline, the third card, the 3-cost.
Timeline Witness.
Yeah. So I think it's not quite as good as I thought. I was really afraid of this card, but when it's been played against me, it hasn't felt as strong as I thought. And you do, a 3-mana 2/4 isn't ideal, especially with a lot of 4/3s or some 4/3s at least going around. Chromie's insane, and what I'll say about Chromie is I drafted it with the Possibility Seeker here in the bottom left, and that combo together is pretty nuts. And it's also up against really bad cards when the draft, so you just take it when you see it.
That's right.
And
we were talking about this before. I can't believe this is not the highest bucket.
yep, it was up
Like that
against
Chromie.
the 4-drop Prince card, and then I can't remember the third one, but it was just an auto pick. Like, not even close.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chromie's really good. Timeline Witness is going to be over bucketed. I think Blizzard also thought it was a better card than it actually is. We started it off at a 96, which is like almost 10 points below a Yeti. So it's not that great. And it hasn't performed that great. I took it once just to like see what it's about. It didn't live for me to do anything with it because it only has an ability if it lives a turn.
Yeah.
So if you're not playing it on turn 3, it's probably not going to live that much. And even if it does live, right, the ability's not the best ability in the world. You'd rather like get a 1/1 on the board. This is Arena. It's not really constructed. You're usually not like searching for a specific card. And if you are searching for a specific card, it's usually a pretty desperate situation, in which case you can't wait a turn and then have this guy live. Like it's not matching up to where you would want this ability. Temporal Anomaly has a nice I like doing this. Okay, so first of all, I like the card design. I like the fact that it's a 2-drop that if you keep it in your hand, it doesn't do its thing because you never draw it, like in the mulligan. It's great. I love this like downside.
You don't draw it. I draw it. I definitely drew it once or twice.
Like on into your turn too?
No, I mean, I drew it in my mulligan. I mean,
no, but that's what I'm saying.
It just showed up there.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I get it in my mulligan too.
Yeah.
But what I do in my mulligan usually is I keep it. I purposefully keep it in my mulligan and just treat it as a 2-mana 2/2. Because in the arena, especially in this meta, what you want is to be aggressive. And I'd rather have a 2-mana 2/2 most times, especially if either I don't have a lot of 2-drops in my deck or I have a coin.
Okay.
I'd rather go out fast and just have a 2-mana 2/2 as a bad card in my deck than to either potentially miss my curve or to get it later on and get like a card draw value. Like I know a lot of people do it. I can't tell you that it's like 100% correct, but I found myself doing that quite a.
Probably depends on how many 2s you have in your draft, how good they are, and things like that.
It depends on a whole bunch of things. I'm not saying like that's what you should do. If you have a very normal deck and you're going first, don't keep this. But I have done it quite a number of times, and I think that the fact that I'm making that decision means that it's an interesting decision because usually people wouldn't do that. So it's a valid thing to do, and that's caused by this mechanic. So I found that to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And as you brought up before, like you see this card everywhere now because it's a good 2-mana card, and there's no 2-mana cards in this set otherwise.
All right, so moving to the bottom row here, there's a lot of interesting cards here. 4-mana, 4/5, Possibility Seeker. It's a dragon. Battlecry, shuffle your hand into your deck, and then draw that many cards back. So you get to, it's pretty nice. You get to basically redraw your hand. And then 5-mana, 6/3, Timeway Wanderer. Battlecry, discover a spell. Reduce the cost by 5, then put it back, put it on the top of your deck, so you draw it like next turn. Or if you have a draw card, you can draw it immediately. 5-mana, 5/5, Wildland Adventurer. Battlecry, add a random card from the Hall of Fame to your hand. Always fun little flavor there. And then finally, 6-mana, 10/10, Stasis Dragon. Of course, as a dragon starts dormant, this awakens with Rush after 2 turns. Oh, I'm really curious to see how you rate this because I feel like I've gotten a lot of these cards. I've actually drafted a bunch of these, and I just don't get to use them all. Right, I pay the price for it because I'm obviously giving up a lot of tempo to play this, or at least for 2 turns. So, why don't we start there with the dragon? Yeah, how good is the dragon?
Okay, let's start with the dragon. Dragon, we have it at 125 in neutral, which is a tiny bit above Keening Banshee, below Egg Napper, below Wasp, but like around that level. Like we think it's very good. And it is like barely a curve card because you do kind of cede the entire like everything to your opponent for a turn, but then you get to use it like right afterwards. And at a 10/10, it's hard for most things to remove it, and it's not even going to stay at 10 mana. I mean, it's not even going to stay like having 10 health. Like one of the things you're most afraid of with putting a giant minion out is it gets hard removed immediately. Here, you're guaranteed to get like some of that value at least, and then they're going to use the removal. So like even as a very heavy tempo player, this is a good thing, and it also fits the description of like helping you dodge board clears and things like that, which especially if you're going a little bit aggressive is very good. So I think oddly this is not a bad aggro card. It's also not a bad control card. I think it's a weak mid-range card. So if you keep playing a mid-range deck, you probably can't afford to lose the tempo on the margins. Like it'll mess up your later turns, and I don't know if this card can actually get it back. But if you're control and you're setting up a board clear, disappearing, like basically having stealth for 2 turns is a really good setup, and you use your mana. Going back to this idea that you need something to do with your mana, but you don't want to either put anything on the board or to overextend the board if you're really far ahead. So
that makes sense.
it's better the weirder your deck is. Well, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. I had a
So yeah.
I had a funny I think the very first game I played, just playing on the arena, I ended up having this card and I played it. And I was playing against a hunter and he played Crushing Wall against it and didn't realize it didn't do anything to him.
Yep.
Oh god, that was so funny. He immediately conceded after that. It was actually funny. He didn't have to, but he just did. I don't know why. But Dreads, yeah, what's your take on this dragon?
Yeah, so when it's been played against me, it hasn't felt that strong. I haven't drafted it yet. This is a card where, in my mind, it's kind of similar to how I feel about Frozen Crusher. If you know, it's a 6-mana 8/8.
Yeah.
After it attacks, it freezes. And so my problem with cards like these right now is there's quite a few cheap taunts. Like everyone's taking every how long can this go on? Stare not changing. And it's easy to kind of set up a turn where, like, because when you play this card, you need to have that swing. Like on turn 8, it needs to have a good kill, and stay around. And if you're able to react to that card and put up little taunts or not give him that just a big minion, you don't even have to have taunts. If they're just a bunch of little spread board, it's not going to be that good on that turn. Obviously, if you're low and then the next turn it's going to come for 10 face and you can't afford that, then that's another story. But it hasn't seemed that good when it's been played against me, but I want to try it out and for myself at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. That's exactly true. Like, which is why if you're ahead on the board, you get to take care of all the small taunts on your own terms. If you're very behind on the board, you want them to play a lot of small things. That's what your board clear is for. And when you're in that mid-range area where those small taunts will actually get you, and you don't have the tempo to necessarily deal with it, and your hand is a little, you need that tempo. And when you don't have that tempo, it hurts.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly right.
All right, Possibility Seeker, man. I've been having fun with this card. I felt like this card's won me games. Like, just whenever I've gotten a chance to play it and just basically redo my entire hand and get cards that were actually much more useful for me.
I like the card too. I think it is strong, but it does make you think, right? Because sometimes you'll have your curve set up. You're like, I don't want to miss out on my nesting rock into Boulder Fist Ogre or whatever.
Right.
And so then when you toss it, you're like, but you kind of need to have a better, the other cards in your hand aren't very good, and you're like, well, I guess I'll go for it. You're hoping. So it makes you think, is it worth it or not? So I do like it for that reason, and it seemed pretty good. Yeah, like I said, I had it with Chromie, and it was pretty insane. So
I played in Rogue. I mean, like when you get the classic, I got too many spells. When you're Rogue, and it's just like playing this card on 4. It's just like, yes, this is perfect. And it's a 4/5 too. It's like, this is pretty nice. Yeah.
I think it's almost always good on turn 4 because even if you have a 5-drop, you can shuffle and get back cards.
You'll likely get one.
Even if you don't get a 5-drop, you get like a 3 and a 2 or like something, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt you too much. What I hated about it, and again, overall, I think it's better than Yeti. It's definitely like a positive ability. But what I hated about it is when I had like a card I needed, or else I wouldn't have a shot at the game. Like I have a Warpath in my hand. I'm just waiting for it because I've already lost the board, but I really do want a Yeti on the board. Like, this is what I need to do with this turn. I have like 3 or 4 cards left. I don't have a lot of choices. One of them's a Warpath that I'm holding on to, and I can't play it. Like, because if I play it, I
toss Lich King at some point where it's like I need to have a play for the next turn, and I had like 4 8-drops in my hand somehow. I don't remember how I got in that situation. I think it was off a Stone Hill or something. And anyways, I was like, well, I got to do it. It hurts, but it's the right play. So it's a cool card.
It's a great card because it makes you think about all these things. And I don't know what the right decision is. And I could probably play with this card another 30 times before I have like a very good idea of like decision making involving this card. And it's a new mechanic and we haven't seen it before. Yeah, it is. I hope these kinds of cards come back into play, even if like in a real set.
Yeah, me too.
Even if it. And it's hard to say, right? Like, on one hand, drawing cards is RNG. On the other hand, the cards you drew were also RNG. So getting a mulligan kind of, like, actually lowers your RNG, and you can tilt it in different ways.
Yeah, but,
so I think this is the kind of good, controlled RNG that Blizzard
makes. Right. And, I mean, I think it works for all formats, too, because you can choose not to play it. You don't have to put it in your deck, right? Yeah. Like, and I think that people can get very creative or play the odds, right? And play it into a deck that would... I think function very well. Or some decks, like I said, you're going to get like just just really terrible draws at some point, right? And this is a card that might help with correcting it. I don't see it being played like in Constructed. I would be surprised if this card actually was ever super viable, but I could see at least maybe like one or two very niche decks, throwing it in there and having some success and fun at the same time, which would be exciting. Okay, Timeway Wanderer. How about this one? Basically, it's almost like a free spell, like coming up next in your hand. What do you think?
I want to talk about this with Wildlands Adventure because they're actually in the same bucket. I've actually had these come up as choices that I've had to make multiple times already because they all have the offering bonus. So they're, if not in the same bucket, they're at least in one of the crossover buckets together. Which is, for Wildlands Adventure, it's not as good as Timeway Wanderer.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of in the same ballpark. I can see why Blizzard made the buckets like that. But it's kind of sad because it means I very rarely get to take a Wildlands Adventure, which means I don't get as many Rags and Sylvanas as I want. Because the Wildland Adventure, you don't take it to like draw a random like whatever card, and it'll usually screw you over more often than not. But when it hits, it's a Rag or a Sylvanas 2 out of like 14 times or whatever. So it's a horrible card design in my opinion. You don't want that kind of variance, but it's not a terribly great card. It's good. It's better than most, neutral cards. It's better than Yeti or stuff, but it's not like as good as if you just like drew a card. And Timeway Wanderer does the kind of the opposite thing, where rather than gain card advantage, you gain tempo. You gain a delayed tempo of up to 5 mana. It's actually really hard to. I was afraid of this card when I first rated it. I was thinking, oh, they're gonna try you're gonna get 5 mana's worth of tempo the next turn. That's something that will like ruin the whole game. And it's actually very difficult to get a card that you want that's 5 mana or above. In the spells. A lot of spells that you want that are good are actually fairly cheap. So it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But the design, right? Even if it's fair, the design is this problematic thing where it has the potential to cause these giant swings at a not insignificant percentage, and it's not very controllable. It's kind of just what you're offered with your 3 cards that you can discover.
Well, I mean, a good example is just UI, right? Like, I mean, if you UI for the very next turn, exactly. I mean, that's broken. Like, how
It's
right?
interesting with that card. I haven't drafted it, but when it's been played against me, it hasn't. I've always been scared. And I'm yet, again, I haven't played that much, but it's yet to really, nail me. Like I was in Pyro range. I think I was even in Fireball range, and a mage played this. I was ahead on the bar, but I'm like, oh, it's over. And somehow the best card that he pulled was an Arcane Explosion. I don't know how. Like I didn't even have that much of a spread board, and I'm like, and he plays it, and it does like nothing. And I'm like, what? How? Maybe they were just terrible options, but it's interesting.
It's about a quarter chance to get reach. Even, like that's all he has. He has a 1/4 chance that one of his 3 cards has reach. That's not that high.
Yeah.
It hasn't seemed as insane as maybe I thought at the start. The Wildlands Adventurer card, that's actually a card that I thought. So I have to play more with it, but just looking at it, to me, it seems better than the Timeway Wanderer, just because it's not understated, and you instantly. And you can get one of these game-breaking cards. You might not, but you aren't really paying that much of a penalty. It's still a 5 mana 5/5.
But the card you get could be so bad.
No, it can be super bad. Yeah,
you can get things that do nothing basically.
Yeah,
right.
Or basically nothing.
Yeah.
That's my that swing is more, at least for Timeway Wanderer. I know I'm at least getting like 2 or 3 mana back the next turn. With Wildlands Adventure, I'm like getting a Rag, or like a third of the time getting something I will not play until it's the last card, or I'm just like filling out the mana.
Yeah, but one thing is you do lose out on the card draw, right? With that card.
Well, with Timeway Wanderer.
Yeah.
Well, you don't think of it as getting a card.
Yeah, you
just think of it as getting mana.
But if you compare it to Wildlands Adventure,
Wildland Adventure gives you.
It gives you a card.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, that card.
It's the opposite.
Wildland Adventure is card advantage. Timeway Wanderer is tempo.
Could be a big tempo.
Unless you got a card, unless you got like Sprint or something. It could be both potentially, but
they're interesting cards. Though. I want to play with them more. Like I'm excited to do the event for 3 weeks.
All right, so the last 2 cards, one of them being one of the strongest cards that we were mentioning, which was Murasond. Mirozond, which is a 7-mana 6/6 dragon battlecry. From now on, your turns are 15 seconds, and you draw 2 extra cards. So definitely changes the clock on you, but you get a reward for that, right? But it's from now on, right? Like it changes for good that your turns are 15 seconds. Is it just your turn? I don't think I've.
Just your turns.
It's
not
just your
opponent's
turns. Okay,
turns.
okay, yeah. It's just your turns. And then lastly, we got 15 mana, 8/8. Of course, it's a giant, time-bound giant. Costs 1 less each card you've drawn. This game, or just generally. So let's talk about the giant first, and we'll get to Marathon afterwards. Yeah, I mean, not too much to say about this. Like, I guess the only thing interesting is just power-wise. Like, let's compare it to other giants. Like, where would you put it next to some of the other giants?
I have so much to say about Time-Bound Giant.
Okay,
I think,
yeah.
especially because Timeway Wonder wasn't as like bad as I thought it was going to, like as terrible for the game, as RNG heavy as I thought it was going to be. Time-Bound Giant is the new like boogeyman, I think, in this set. And Morazan and Chromie are legendaries. You don't see them as often. Okay. Think about it this way.
Wow.
This is a card that will gain you X amount of tempo when you play it, right? If you play it on turn 7, it'll gain you like half a tempo. It's a 8/8 for 7 mana. It's not that bad. But if you play anytime after turn 7, you are gaining X tempo depending on how many turns have passed. Because this is not for each card that you draw with this card in your hand. This is for each card you've like ever drawn in the game.
Yeah, that's
so.
But I'm assuming it doesn't count the cards you start with, right?
No, it doesn't count the cards you start with. So it's just like number of turns in the game plus anything that says draw a card from your deck, right? Like any kind of cycles, any kind of draw effects. So setting aside the synergies, which is ridiculous, you basically draw cards for free at that point. Whenever this card is in your hand or drawn from the card draws, even just normally, it means that this card provides a tempo swing of however much you want. All you got to do is have enough stuff to play before then to not lose tempo on the board. So let's say you're a mage and you have some card draws and whatever things like that, and you can just like keep using your mana and playing stuff, and it's like turn 15, which happens very frequently in this new meta if you're playing a normal like deck, because things are slowed down a little by the time cards. Then you get to decide on which turn to gain like 6 tempo out of nowhere.
That's pretty crazy.
Exactly, because this isn't even like the other giant, the Sea Giant. But we rate this card like 20 points higher than a Sea Giant. Now, it's not like a game-breaking card in terms of like the actual value, because it doesn't come into play until way later in the game. It's rated a 129 in neutral. That's still pretty high. It's higher than like all the other neutral cards, but not like super premium, just regular premium. But you get to control it. A Sea Giant, you have to play it on the turn in which your opponent has a bunch of cards in. Whether you want to or not, your mana is a little awkward. I mean, maybe you don't need it at this point. But Time-Bound Giant, you can totally plan for. There's no like actual RNG involved in it. It's just a problematic card because of the amount of tempo you're guaranteed to gain. As soon as this card is in your hand, you will gain that much tempo. Or if you're drawing towards the later end of your deck, you know that this tempo
you could
potentially
play a free 8/8 if it's late enough in the game.
Yeah.
I haven't played with this card yet, and I actually haven't seen it played against me, but it does seem like it could be a little bit of a problem. And not a real fun way to lose. Not there's many fun ways to lose, but he had that in his hand for a long time. I don't have an answer, and that's a free 8/8, right? So I don't think this one is one of the better designs.
Yeah.
As far as cards go.
Yeah, agreed.
And Possibility Seeker's a card. Just
right, which makes it even more.
Exactly. That's what's awesome too.
And it's very common. I mean, cards everywhere.
Right. All right, Marazon. This is crazy thing. I've always wanted, definitely speed. Hearthstone's always been on the brain, at least, in terms of some kind of fun element, or just having that be a little bit, just not something that you have to wait until the end, the end of the game to get some kind of crazy dragon to play it. So Marazon for 15 seconds. I mean, that's not very much time to actually get any kind of turn in. Is that worth it too? What was wrong with it?
Nozdormu was 15 seconds, but it was actually like 24 or something, I think, for the longest time.
Yeah. I don't know.
Did they fix
Actually, that's a
that
good
bug?
question. I don't know if they fixed it. I'm assuming they have. Let's just say they have. Yeah. So is this? I mean, this card's clearly fun to actually experience, but is it actually worth 2 extra cards here?
So I think I was a little bit wrong about this card. Like from what I've been hearing, because
Okay.
again, since I haven't played a ton, I thought fatigue would be more of an issue than it sounds like it is for people playing this card.
It's surprisingly not. I don't know either. I had the same thought you
the
did.
Body, right? Like it's a 6/6, so as opposed to the mage weapon, right? Because that's what I was thinking about. You know,
it's
in
like a
Arena, that
Luneth,
mage
basically.
weapon.
You're right.
Yeah, Luneth. Yeah, where it's like, but when you play that, you aren't doing anything on the board. So with this, you play it and you get a 6/6. So maybe that's why it's been a little bit different than what I thought. But yeah, I was worried that you play this and put the side. If you're super focused, 15 seconds is enough time. You know, as a streamer, it could be a little tough but you'd have to focus when you play the card. But yeah, it sounds like from what I've heard, it's really, really strong, and and fatigue doesn't sound like it's as much of an issue as I thought. So I'm just gonna have to defer to people that have told me about how about their experiences with the card, because I didn't think it would be as good as it sounds like it is.
I haven't had the luxury of drafting this card,
It's
but I have
legendary. You
faced
don't see
it.
it that often, probably,
Yeah.
right? So
Well, you would think, but I've seen it many times in the arena. But that makes sense. You get up in the higher win rates, and these decks kind of carry. And this is definitely one of those minions that carries an entire deck. We started it out 10 points higher than a Lich King. That's how good we thought the card was, and that's like that. I mean, the algorithm looks at your percent chance of fatiguing and how much damage you take from fatigue and the cards you miss from drawing and all of that stuff. So it's doing that pretty well. And this is the number it came out, and I was like, I'm just gonna go with it. I can't like mentally figure this out, better than the algorithm that we kind of have set up. So we went with it, and I don't know if it's better than a Lich King or not, but it's definitely very powerful. And I have yet to see anybody that I face fatigue with it. They've all just won the game or died, like after playing this. There's just so many cards.
Yeah, I mean, just generally, fatigue doesn't happen that often in Arena, right? Like
usually not, but you're drawing 3 cards every turn now.
Yeah. With Alaneth, it can. Like I had one deck actually where I made Alaneth work okay because I did have a bunch of runes and a pyro and things.
Yeah.
And it was still close a lot of games where if I got hit by a blizzard or something and didn't get the burn, fatigue becomes a real issue.
Yeah.
So.
And I think you're right. It's because there is a body. Because for Luneth, when you play it, you have to catch up for like 2 turns before you're in the position that you were in, and then you're 2 turns deeper in. And also, I think Luneth is draw 3 cards on top of your normal draw, right? So it's one.
Oh, so it's one
card.
more. Is that right?
Yeah, it's one more card than this, which still makes a difference.
Which is a big difference.
It's a little slower.
Yeah. So this card doesn't have as much fatigue issues. It still has potential for fatigue issues, right? You put the inevitability on your opponent winning the game, not on you winning the game. But it just after 1 turn, the card gets the value it's supposed to get. So after 2 turns, you're just drawing free cards, assuming you don't fatigue. It's not a fair card.
It's not a fair card. Yeah,
Wouldn't be okay with this.
It's pretty
one
crazy.
Yes, would not be okay with this one existing, even as a legendary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great card. I can't wait to try to get it one of these days. So I'm definitely gonna have to play some more games before I can actually have it offered to me. But overall, lots of cards that we talked about just now that pose very interesting situations, and cards that we just can't figure out right away. That's always a good sign that the design's very, very good for the cards. So definitely kudos to the Blizzard team for almost all the cards, with exception to a few of them.
I think they did a pretty good job overall.
Yeah, totally. All right, so top 3 to 5 cards. What do you think your favorite cards are?
Oh, that Shaman Elemental, definitely.
Okay.
The one that puts someone in stasis, like keeps them frozen as long as.
Oh, that's one of your favorites. Oh, I didn't think that would be one of your
cards.
Okay, awesome.
I just like the design.
I mean, top 5 in power level, or like
just
how much
favorite.
Oh yeah, favorite. Yeah, now that's not top 5 in power level,
yeah.
but definitely like my favorite. In terms of design, I really like it. I don't even mind the infinite stuff.
Okay.
It hasn't been bad. I expected it to be worse than it actually is. As it is, it's like an interesting quirk in the arena.
Yeah, if you can get Mirazon with the Infinite Wolf or whatever, oh man, that's awesome stuff right there. That could be sick. All right, Dreads, how about you? Favorite card? Maybe just pick one. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, favorite card. I'm gonna take the easy way out here and go with the broken shaman card, the Master of
The
Realities.
Master Realities.
I
Okay.
do like those random effects anyways.
It's fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy the what am I gonna get here? Play another card. What am I gonna get? So, yeah, it's really strong, and I like Evolve. So
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
I'm going with Fate Cleaver because that's like a fun card just to think about, and just I don't know. I just think it's very, very like just a cerebral kind of card, in terms of like if you add it to your deck or just how you play it, So kind of hoping that ends up making it would be so bad for Paladin though if it wasn't constructed. Holy crap! Like a single card would just counter Paladin, but it would be I think pretty amazing though. All right, well, we definitely took a lot of time there. Why don't we just get to some of the Q&A that's, some people have some questions for us. So first off, okay, so the Box Wine asked a question that's kind of related to what we were just talking about. Which one of the time-limited arena cards would you most like to see in the current standard meta? So I guess you guys don't play standard as much, but
I play a little bit.
A little bit? Okay. Yeah, which one... What would you like to see? I mean, for me, it'd be like kind of one of the crazier ones, like Stasis.
I like Possibility Seeker. I'd probably go with that one.
That's a good one. Yeah,
cool card and not insanely broken. Fun to play with. Well statted. So I don't know how good it would be in the current meta because I don't play enough Constructed to really be able to judge how good this card is up against other 4-drops. But yeah, I think that'd be a fun one to have.
Yeah, I agree with that. Not too crazy and not too. I think the Fate Cleaver would be just too good against a lot of the.
And Master of Realities, I'm sure someone would somehow find a way to make that work. Pretty crazy. All right.
Shaman could sure use it outside of a Shutterwalk. I mean, they have like even Shaman and Shutterwalk, but those are. I feel like those are very niche and not. They don't really have that much room to work with there. Edward, you don't play much standard, right?
I haven't played standard. I hit legend on my first month of playing standard, and then I have not touched standard since. That was like
just did
3
it.
months
Done.
after the game was released.
Just done.
Got my card back.
Exactly. All right. We've got some questions on Twitter and on just from email. I think we'll hold off some of the more standard questions for next week. Whenever we do our show next. Actually, we're going to be gone next week, so we're not going to have a show next week. But just it makes more sense to ask those questions when Nagar's back. Ahmed N asks, how would you design an arena tournament? All right, I'm sure you guys been asked this like 1,000 times, so let's just do 1,001 here. So ideal arena tournament given the just obviously limitations and everything right now.
So in arena tournament, the focus must be on deck building because that's one of the most special parts about arena. And so unfortunately, I think for an arena tournament, you got to go one of two ways. You got to have a lot of deck building and really build it into part of like what the people are watching, and people have building decks with you, and really make that into a thing. Or you just do it like normal arena where everyone just gets one deck, one game. This is March Madness. This is sudden elimination. Like it doesn't matter if it's fair or not. Just go, go, go.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with either approach, but if you do a deck building approach, maybe like have 9 decks at the beginning where you get to build one from each class, and you just kind of get what you get in those, and either they get randomly selected for each of your matchups, and then you can do best of 3s, best of 5s, whatever, or you get to select them and you get to pick the best decks that you built. And either way, there's an intense like deck building aspect before the arena, and I think that would be more of a test of skill. Than the March Madness style of just one and done of whatever random deck you get. But the other one may be more exciting to watch.
I mean, one and done is definitely more. It's like easier to do even from a production level too, right? So, Dreads, how about you? Ideal.
Yeah, I think Eduardo should answer this one pretty well. I think if you want to try to actually determine who the best player is at the time in the current meta, then you need to do a lot of different drafts. So he does something like 9, and even then there's enough variance in that number of drafts that it's not going to really tell you who the best player is. But I guess for me with Arena, I've kind of moved a little bit away from having that be the most important thing, like trying to answer who's the best.
Mhm.
And I think realistically, the best way to do it would be to have it be the other style that Adwakta mentioned, where it's just kind of a fun thing. Maybe you get 1 or 2 decks, and you play the best of your ability, and it doesn't have to be super competitive, but it could just be a fun way to showcase some of the good arena players, and give it a little more exposure. So I've moved more towards have it be a fun event, and there's still skill involved, but not necessarily pushing that we got to figure out who's the best.
Yeah. I think, what would I mean, definitely I'm on the same page as you, Adwakta, about really focusing on the deck building part of it. I think I'm just generally in that boat about any event. Like I always, if people always ask me about like events, and I think that's the part that people have, I don't know why, but they've skimped on in terms of production, is like showing that. And there's a lot you can do. It's harder, but you can do it. Yeah. Like you can do it if you're willing to really plan it, and it could be pre-record, it could be whatever, right? Like there's a lot of things you could do with it. So I think that's important. I would actually like to see some type of like definitely a fun route is the way to go. Maybe it's not just an arena thing, but it would be fun to have like like teams, like 2-man teams. One's like an arena player, one's like a constructed player, and you have the arena player building the decks for them via drafts, that sort of thing, and then have the constructed play against each other. Yeah, or some kind of tag teaming thing. Like it'd be something fun like that. Yeah.
Even the Red Bull event that like Adwakta and
the sealed one
were part of, that was a pretty decent event. I think it was not perfect, but it was.
But they cut out all the deck building part of it. Like the first iteration, they kind of showed some, and then the second and third iteration, they completely cut out that. It's just like the gameplay.
And I'll bet it's because people were like not as interested in that, because it's not something that they've seen before. The excitement of deck building doesn't show the game, like the actual, like nothing's flashing, there are no sounds. Cool, it's like just people huddled over a computer being like, do I need this card or do I need that card? So
do I need a curve pick? Do I need value?
Well, so I agree, but it really just depends on what you're showing. Like you could edit all of that to make it into a very interesting 30 minutes of building a deck. And people, and on the counter note is that it is accessible because all of us open card packs and all of us go and build decks. So I think, that's a huge opportunity that I thought they were going to nail, like on the first iteration of it, but they've kind of gone the opposite direction, which is just show gameplay. And it's just hasn't been as interesting.
It would sure be great if they did do something.
Yeah,
like that for arena, some kind of tournament.
Yeah, it'd be fun. It
doesn't have to be super serious, but I'm starting to lose out hope that that's gonna happen.
Maybe we just don't do standard at all. We just take like wild players and arena players, put them into like a 2v2 type of, or 2-man tournament type of thing. Yeah, the non-standard, the non-standard tournament.
It'd be fun.
Yeah. That'd be kind of.
I want to talk about the other aspect of arena that. So the most important part is the draft, right? Obviously, the part that doesn't, I think, get a lot of attention when it comes to an arena tournament is that in the arena, if you're really looking to capture like any kind of limited, like online kind of game, is that you don't know your opponent's deck, and that is such a huge part of being an arena player, is trying to figure out what your opponent's doing, what their game plan is. Whereas if you see their decks, you kind of know what their game plan is, you know what you need to play around, and you have to run whatever percentages in your head. So maybe you have to build that like on the spot or as a prep, but it's not what you're reacting to in the game. And that is such a huge part, at least for Hearthstone Arena, that whatever tournament format, I think it would really capture the spirit of the arena a lot more if the decks are either not reused, or they can find a way to make sure that the players never figure out each other's decks if you're actually reusing decks.
Yeah.
Because that's like kind of a practical issue that comes in, where you kind of, maybe you want to do a draft all the time. If you want to show the draft and focus on that, that's all fine. But if you don't, then you need to make sure no one is figuring out anyone else's decks. And if it's being broadcast live, that they're actually in like a black box or something like that. And that gets, potentially logistically.
Well, you could just you could just have each team just draft a bunch, like 7 times, and then just you have an arsenal of 7 decks, right? And you just pick the deck you want to roll out. I think just generally that's an interesting way to go about it. Maybe you have a deck that you feel like, ooh, we want to break this out maybe from a timing standpoint, like what game it is, or maybe just like, I don't know, so some type of class just matchup is determined, and then you can kind of figure out like how you want to break that out. There's a lot of things you can do. Yeah.
Draft 27 decks in the beginning. Record all of it.
No, not record.
Play best of.
Not record all of it.
You play best of 3 or best of 5 or whatever you normally play, but every deck can only be used once, period, in the entire tournament.
Yeah, that might be too many decks, but generally speaking,
it'd be interesting too if you did something like with arena tournaments. Is you in theory you can trust your reads more if you're playing against good players, but then the opponent might try to mess with you and give you a certain read or feed it to you, and then you think you're safe, and so there could be some pretty cool dynamics, I think.
I still think even with arena events and just general events, there's still so much that hasn't been done in terms of events that still waiting for just more event organizers. And exactly. Hopefully we'll see some more interesting events that that don't resemble what we see right now from like HCT and things like that. All right, we got a question on Twitter. Alex Corley. We're gonna take maybe 1 or 2 more of these. And how do you feel about the nature, frequency of length? How you feel about the nature, frequency, and length of special arena events that introduce heavy RNG, short-term metas that are not skill testing or require skills that won't be relevant once they end? So like basically the current event, dual class, arena exclusive of cards, wild arena. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. What do you guys think?
I've come around on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I used to. Maybe if you asked me this question 6 months or a year ago, I would say, it's not. I don't like it. It makes arena more of less of a competitive thing. Just just jump in and see wild things happen. But I'm now at the point where it's partially because I play so much arena that I do look forward to these events because it's nice to switch it up a little bit. So I think you can still. There's still skill involved. I was worried about this event because looking at some of the cards, I was thinking, oh man, it's going to be just a mess. And,
especially because we thought Chromie and Morazan were common.
Would be everywhere.
Neutral cards.
Yeah.
So I think, the way they did it and the power level, and just the way they did this event overall, I think it's a good thing. And anytime they have an event, some people that might not play as much arena come in and try it. Which is just good. So I say keep making these events, and as far as like leaderboard and things like that go, don't make that your focus. Like try to have fun with it and enjoy it while it's around. And if you don't worry too much about the results, I think you'll have more fun. And also it's also softer during these times, at least for competitive players, because everyone that doesn't play a lot of arena comes and plays, so you tend to win more, just as a natural effect. So I say keep doing them. And not absolutely. All the time though, right? Like the how often? When was the last?
They do one of these. Last one was Wildfest, but they do one of these per expansion.
Okay, that seems like a good number.
It's a good number.
One per expansion.
Yeah, for what's it? 3 weeks, right? That's pretty much what.
This one's 3 weeks. Yeah, I think 2 weeks is a better time. 3 weeks, the third week is always going to be rough if they do like an actual event, like a dual class event or something along those lines. But for these introduction of cards, if they get the card balance right, like they can leave it in here for however long that they want, really, like because it'll just be like a mini expansion for arena only. So I'm not really worried about the length if all you're doing is adding cards or doing Wildfest or anything along those lines. But that's the line, right? Like the line for me really was Chromie and Morazan. If they were basic common cards, this was going to be terrible. Now that they're not, this is like I could live with these cards for probably even longer than 3 weeks because it's not as problematic. One of the best cards we keep talking about, right, is Chrono Shot and Hunter because of the pure power level. Yeah, that's really powerful, but is it any more powerful than like SAP or Meteor or UI or all the other stuff we deal with? It's not. It's not even at those at that power level. So it's stuff we deal with, right? So is this bad to make these powerful cards and these like ridiculous RNG cards exist more in the arena? Yeah, but it's within that line. As long as you're below the line of having a game that can be fairly competitive, I think you're fine time-wise. If you're moving the bar into a level where it's very difficult to make it competitive and that you can just kind of more or less a coin flip, and I don't know exactly what that line is, but I do know that Chromie and Morazan as commons would have crossed that line. And like the dual class thing was crossing that line because of how rogue cards interacted with other classes.
Oh gosh, that was crazy.
But yeah, for those you want to keep it like I think 1 week.
Yeah, those are
those.
insane, man.
Or at least like open up regular arena as well after 1 week, and have both things going on, and people even split the player pool, especially because you're getting so many new players into the pool through the event. But if you're just introducing cards and they're roughly within the correct power levels, yeah,
it's all good, right?
Yeah,
that's a success. I mean, the fact that we've kind of walked on here, saying it's good to go for another, more than 3 weeks.
They did a good job.
Absolute success. Yeah, crazy. So, thanks for the question, Alex, and the box wine, and Ahmed, of course. But why don't we wrap up? We've kind of got it solid, gone over 2 hours. Definitely really great, given that we don't get a chance to do these arena episodes all the time. But let's do some shout outs. Dreads, thanks for joining us again. Like you were on our previous one too with Shady.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed both of them. It's nice to talk about arena with people. I always enjoy it. Like I did a co-op a little while back and got to talk about some things, and it's always a good time. So yeah, thank you for having me on. And so I'm an arena exclusive streamer. Basically, and I stream these days. I've been starting around maybe 4 o'clock PDT, and I go for normally 8 or 9 hours. So
nice.
And then my Twitter is @Dreads Gaming.
You can see it right over there.
That's where I post most of my updates and that. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, anytime, ADWCTA. It's been a while, man. Like, I don't know why it's been so long. I mean, to be honest, we didn't do an arena one for a long time, and I kind of asked Dreads and Shady at the last minute to hop on. So
yeah, and I think Merps did the last one of the Go.
Did he?
For Valleytown.
Yeah,
I think it was a while back.
We got to get
I haven't done one of these in like 2 years.
Yeah, we got to get the whole triumvirate again, like with Crip and everybody, like on here.
Just get like 8 arena players in here, and we'll make it.
8 arena players? That's like way too many people, man. Oh my god. You can imagine.
We could just have a tournament right on Valleytown.
Yeah, exactly. All right, now it's like Havu and whoever's in Havu and ADWCTA's turn to go, and then they leave, and while we still talk about stuff. Yeah. That'd be kind of funny. But,
so I'm we were mentioning Merps a lot. Me and Merps together make the Grinning Goat, and I'm wearing a shirt from our Amazon catalog.
Are you the Grinner or are you the Goat?
I think this is the Grinning Goat is a weird thing where me and Merps just kept talking to the artist who was drawing this, and we kept saying, make the goat look more like Tom Cruise. No, more creepy. For maybe like 4 iterations until the goat came out looking like this, and we were like appropriately satisfied.
Yeah.
With it's got to be charismatic yet a little off. It's like
God.
a little serial killer. We were very specific. The artist was like, "What are you doing? Who are you guys? What am I signing up for?"
Just do it.
And so our Twitch channel and our YouTube channel is Grinning Goat. Although on YouTube, I think if you type YouTube/ADWCTA, it'll still just redirect you there.
Okay.
But you'd have to memorize 6 random letters rather than Grinning Goat. And we have a YouTube channel where we upload edited versions of all of our 12-win runs in the arena, as well as our podcast that is entirely arena focused all the time, the Lightforge podcast. And we also have a tier list that runs off this backend algorithm we've been working on for like the last 2 years. And that is at thelightforge.com, and that's always kept up to date. And we spend a lot of time to make sure those numbers are right for the meta, right even before the meta happens. That's like our goal. It's getting a little harder with Blizzard not giving us exact offering rates, but we're hanging in there. And you can use it to identify some cards that Blizzard misbucketed, get an edge, or just to I like to just look at it to just analyze the arena. I know a lot of people use tier lists. They sort by classic, which is like the cards that are good on the left, going down to the cards that are bad, and that's how most tier lists are. But we have an alternate way to sort things by mana, and then you can tell where it sorts vertically the values, right. And they're actually grouped by each mana, so I can tell where my 3-drops are, where my 4-drops are, and I can evaluate big strategy in that way.
Cool.
Anyway. happy to be here, and wanted to make sure I gave Merps a shout out. He's couldn't be here today, but
He
a very
works.
important part of the Grinning Goat.
Yeah. He's got a day job right now. That's why I can never have him on. Like, I think the last time we did one, it was like late at night. That's kind of why Merps was able to make it. But anyways, it was great having you guys on. I think we covered a lot, and just the discussion's always great with you guys. So really appreciate that.
Fun out there, everyone.
Yeah,
enjoy the event, and have a good time.
Absolutely. Go play it, guys. The cards are so fun. And
you get 2 free arena runs.
Yeah,
so.
2. More than that, right? Like,
do you get more than 2?
I thought I had 4. I thought I had 4 tickets, like free tickets.
On each server, if you play on multiple servers.
No, it's the same server, the NA server. I had 4 tickets.
You must have broken something. I would keep quiet about that.
Maybe I did. I don't know, man. Okay, maybe I did break it. No, but you definitely get some free runs. So whether it's 2 or 4, I don't know. It depends. Yeah. But one thing I forgot to mention is just like I really love the quests that have dust and gold as rewards. That was definitely something really cool, and I hope they continue doing it just because a lot of people would prefer dust. But
especially like even as arena players, where the dust we don't really need a collection to to play the decks we want. Like I use dust for my golden cards to look fancier when I'm in the arena. So
I've gotten into that lately too.
True.
I enjoyed that.
On the other hand, we're like infinite players, so the gold literally does us no good. So I would prefer direct dust.
Yeah, so hopefully this is the beginning of some more of that. But yeah, thanks everybody for obviously watching.
And don't forget to remind your viewers and listeners that today's the free pack day.
Oh yeah, the free pack, the golden pack.
That's right. I actually haven't logged on yet.
Yeah,
make sure you log on every single server too. Log on to every single server and get your free golden pack. And those you wonder what golden,
Yeah, if you have a golden card in your collection, the arena card is also golden when you draft it of that card.
Yeah, that's definitely nice.
That's awesome.
So lots of things going on, guys. You can check out this show on youtube.com/HSReplayNet, and you can check it out on my channel too, which is ChanManV. You can follow the channel on Twitter, ValueTownGG. And again, the show is an HSReplay.net show, so go to HS Replay. We mentioned it a bunch today, looking at win rates for all the cards and just even just which classes are dominating the arena and standard. You can obviously find out everything about the meta too by just going to hsreplay.net and checking it out. If you sign up for premium, you can get even more awesome filters, by day, region, rank. It's really, really useful for you, to be ranking up at that specific rank and region. And you can find us on all the sound channels or audio channels like iTunes and Google Play, as well as soundcloud.com/ChanManV. But that's going to be it, guys, today for Value Town. So for Dreads, ADWCTA, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next time. Oh, we're not going to be here next week, guys. We'll be 2 weeks from now. I'm actually on vacation next week, so expect us 2 weeks from now. All right, later.